nuclear powered?
Yeah.
Wow. That's...
And he has a big nuclear reactor in his hand with that little sign that said nuclear reactor.
When every kid and their uncle could have a nuclear pile in their backyard. Oh, it's sweet. Sweet. Wayne Industries.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everyone. 1 second while I try to get the chat to pop in. I'll just take a moment. Oh, I need to transition over here to make that happen. 1 moment and we will get back to these guys. These folks, because I need to pull the chat out. And then we'll be back. Just like that. Look at that. And then we can, and then we can make the chat happen and then we can start talking. How you guys doing?
Good so far.
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Cool, cool. Well, I'm seeing I'm checking the audio. We seem to be getting audio, so that's good. We are here to talk about an anime movie from the 80s. Boy, is this an anime movie from the 80s. This is Urusei Yatsura Beautiful Dreamer. And I should start with a little FYI. Urusei Yatsura is by Rumiko Takahashi. If you've seen Inuyasha or Ranma 1/2 or Rinne, or Maison Koku. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of hers, hugely popular in the 70s when it came out. And very much her more recent stuff has been sort of more supernatural, supernatural action, drama, romance stuff. This is more of her early period, where it's much more just wacky comedy. There's sci-fi elements and so forth, but the TV series especially is just screwball comedy, a little bit of romance, a little bit of stuff all the way through. And then Mamoru Oshii got his little mitts on it and made this movie.
Boy, did he.
Because, boy.
Did he.
The reason we're doing this is because within the span of a couple of weeks, I stumbled across several different interviews with long-standing anime staff who said, I was an otaku until I watched this movie, and then I knew I wanted to be in the anime industry because anime was finally tackling like what it means to be human and the nature of reality, like some really deep stuff. And I was just so impressed with that. I was like, what the heck, you're Urusei Yatsura? How could you be doing this? Because that is not your remit. So we'll start off as usual. So what sort of exposure do you all have to Urusei Yatsura before this point? John?
Lum and her bikini.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it.
Yep.
I've seen, I can't remember I think it was 2 seasons ago, there was some particular anime and a girl shows up and she's got Lum's bikini on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really very, very obvious, and I didn't understand why it was obvious until I sort of looked into it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know who Lum is.
Yeah.
So I kind of look a little bit more, and you've talked about Urusei Yatsura before, so that I've looked in to see the 195 episodes of the TV animation, and thought, wow, okay, now I know who Lum is. And now I know there's no way I have the time in my life to watch all of that. So that's about as much as I knew before watching Beautiful Dreamer.
Steve?
Pretty much the same thing. More or less. Online, Lum is so iconic. She's kind of everywhere. So I was aware of the existence. Was aware that it was a thing, and which is really odd for me because I've pretty much delved into all the other related anime and manga, and which I really enjoy. But for Lum, nothing. I never really watched it, read any manga, nothing. This is actually the first thing that I watched of it. And like John, pretty much what I saw was that Budokan there would be a girl in a lum bikini and hair, and then horns, and then I'd be like, lum, moving right along,
Yeah.
because that's all I got.
Mhm.
Up until now, and now I watched the series, and I'm not gonna invest the time to watch 195 episodes of Lum, but I'm gonna watch some of it. But I did enjoy this movie.
I'm sure it is a very tight narrative through all those 195 episodes. If you miss any single one, you'll be completely lost. Yeah.
I have a feeling
and
it's the same trope over and over again.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like I complain about, and I legitimately, at least in my opinion, and my opinion is always right. No,
Right.
I'm just. I legitimately have a problem where you have a 12 episode run of a series, and episode 6 is a recap of the 5 episodes that occurred before.
Uh-huh.
With the incredible number of episodes for Urusei Yatsura, I really would I would really welcome there being a nice synopsis, kind of maybe a couple episodes to cover that.
As far as I know, there's
Like
literally no plot. This is entirely episodic.
But I mean, something that doesn't even just cover her arrival. It's just
That's
her
episode
arrival's one episode.
Yeah.
And that's
as far as I
get
know.
by with watching just episode 1
Yeah.
to get the whole gist of it.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
basically, the recommendation is watch episode 1, and then for the other episodes, just kind of go this way.
Yeah.
Adventure of the day.
Yeah,
basically.
I think like the first couple episodes like fully introduce all the characters, so you get kind of some more of all of what's going on. But yes, because I got the DVD of Volume 1 back in the day. I think Animago, Central Park Media, I think it was actually.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
That was a while ago, back when they existed. And
back when that was a thing.
yeah, watch a few episodes of that, just get a sense of it. And that was very much, and that was, so I watched Beautiful Dreamer first, just like you all, some time ago, and then went back and watched the TV series, like, oh, okay, and that's the thing, is I think the one downside of watching this without having seen this series is that there are some aspects of the characters' personalities that clearly you're expected to understand going into it. Beyond that, though, like there's nothing really here that delves into a huge amount of backstory, except Lum's arrival on Earth, which is pretty clear in context. So there's really not that much in the TV series. Like, oh, I wish I'd known.
Well, I'm assuming you get some, like the kid with the sword.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he's rich kid. He's kind of stuck up kind of thing, and he's always trying to straighten out Ataru and get his act together, go in the right direction. But then there's the nurse.
Yeah.
Which Beautiful Dreamer doesn't really. It doesn't give you any background onto why is Nurse Sakura. Why is she? She seems to have she's dialed in on what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, without a background to it, it's like, okay, I get that Mamoru Oshii, Ataru, is a pervert.
Yeah.
And, he truly likes or loves Lum, but, he's also he likes all kinds of girls. That's fine. But Nurse Sakura knows what's going on to the point where she's really very observant of what's happening. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
You never get that in this. Is like, why? Why are you so special that you know all this stuff? How do you set that, the spiritual trap up? How are you knowing these things? You're just a school nurse, right?
Mm-hmm.
No.
And the backstory for that is that she has her grandfather, is a monk, Buddhist monk, who fills in the role of the spiritual character, that guy.
Yes, you see a little bit of him in that. You see him float by at one point.
And he's a pervert, so he's constantly stealing girls' panties and so forth. Which I think is one of the reasons why he's not in the film. Let's just not go there. And so she's his, daughter or granddaughter or what have you. And so she's a Miko. She has, yeah. So, as far as I recall in the series, that is there purely so they can have somebody show up during supernatural episodes and go, aha, I know what's going on. You know,
Oh.
it's
Convenient plot device.
yeah,
Insert
pretty much.
here.
Yeah.
Ah, nice.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, but you're right, and so there are a few of those things around the relationships. But I do think the movie does a pretty nice job. When it first starts up, you get all these weird shots of the beach, and the characters sort of hang out on the beach, and the weirdness of all of that, which kind of sets you up.
And the guy who's onsen Mark.
Yeah.
And he wears a helmet that has an onsen symbol on it. Like, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Got an inside joke with the onsen thing, or am I missing something? Like, I don't get that part.
But then we get the whole sequence with the preparation for the school festival. Yeah. And I do like how that kind of sets up for you who the characters are in the middle of all this wackiness. Where you have, kind of
like Darth Vader, Ultraman, all those figures that show up.
I loved all that. And just listening in the background of going, well, the committee leaders, please come by and return the stolen Peter.
With all the characters, it reminded me vaguely of Daikon 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like you've got all these background characters. You're like, wait a minute. They're standing in line with the nurse, and there's Darth Vader standing in line. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on a second here.
Which would have come out before this.
Ultraman's on one of the scaffoldings.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think they were having fun with that. But yeah, so you have all this wonderful craziness, and you do get a sense of who they are. And I gotta say, I don't think I've ever seen a school sequence so perfectly capture so many background characters and the craziness of all that's going on. And just that sense that these are not just, our protagonists in their spot. There's all this stuff happening around them. And plays in nicely to the whole theme of the fact that they've been prepping this so much that they're so sleep deprived. They don't know what's real anymore. They don't know what's happening anymore, and everything is just kind of blending together. And it turns out
poor choices.
Yes.
Poor choices about stuff.
Very poor
I don't know,
choices.
like the Third Reich Cafe. As soon as I saw that, I'm like,
yep.
Oh, what? Like, oh no, don't do this. Like, this is terrible.
I am watching that scene, and I'm just like going, jackboots, death heads,
Yeah.
skull cap, 30-ton ether tank? What? Wait a minute, what?
Well, and that's
Why? I knew that, and then they just go on, and like the one dude's just like all imperious, and the one in the jackboots and the cap, and he's just like like wanting to punish people. I'm like going,
yeah.
okay.
Well, so they do all this to the degree that they do, and the tank. Even the kid with the sword says it's a leopard.
Yeah.
It's a post-war Bundeswehr leopard tank. And I'm like, if you're going, you just jump both feet into like all kinds of foreboding stuff all over this, and yet you're like, yeah, we got a leopard tank. Be like, couldn't you have not gone to the Third Reich Cafe then? Could you go to a Cold War Cafe or something?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I remember the excellent question of, you just accept that this tank is there, but someone there does ask, how did we get a 40-ton tank in here from the principal's office?
Yeah.
Then you hear that.
Exactly. And I think it does a great job of establishing just kind of what this movie is, and
Yeah.
that this is not a serious movie for all the other strange things going on.
No.
But it is also kind of self-aware of how ridiculous it is. The characters are aware that wait, what's going on here? And again, those sort of school moments, those times in school where you look around, you're like, yeah, what are we doing again? Like, why are we here? What is life?
I like when Ataru is in the tank.
Yeah.
And it's like he's having a vivid moment to himself.
Yeah,
tank.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
you guys handled that very delicately and how you were addressing that issue. Like, okay, yeah, that's good.
Yep.
You still said it. Yeah, you still said it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's clothed and he's by himself, and sort of the nod and a wink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is very much Urusei Yatsura. Like it is a, and it's worth noting. Yeah, this is late '70s, early '80s. So anime is really moving out of that aimed at kids era,
Right.
and so that means a lot of things are pushing the boundaries. And okay, now we're doing things for teens. Let's just do a sex comedy, and Urusei Yatsura never goes like that far, but there's a lot of shower scenes and I fell into your underwear drawer and all that kind of stuff. Where it's like, oh, okay, we get it, anime. Teenagers are horny. Yeah. And then the principal and the giant cat. Yeah, this is a very serious movie.
Well, how did you like when Sakura is giving out like onsen Mike some tranquilizers?
Yeah.
She gives him
It's
like
a
a gallon jug of tranquilizers. I'm like,
So
that's like horse tranquilizers. What are you doing to this guy?
and just like and then later on when they go to his apartment and when you start learning things and then you first walk into the apartment and you see her face and she's like, oh God, as she busts open the door. And my thought was like, oh God, he really did get the tranquilizer.
He got the laxatives.
The laxatives.
Yeah.
Am I about to see a horror show?
Yeah,
here?
exactly.
And, but it was a different kind of horror show.
Exactly. Yes.
It was
It's
dust.
equally as
It was
disgusting.
just dust.
Dust and mold.
Yep. But that was clearly what they were setting up, right? Like this
Yeah.
was, that's where they were
yeah.
going. And I did just love the comedy of this, this character that we've seen as this very calm, collected doctor. You do this, and then suddenly, oops, and then motorcycle driving through town,
And not just through town, but up the stairs.
Yes, she was
Yeah.
busy. But yeah, trying to get that shot. There we go. And then we start realizing
An Ultraman.
Exactly, there we are. And this is where we start realizing. This is where we start getting our Mamoru Oshii bits. Was this before or so this was after the first sequence where Ataru is driving through the night to get food. And it
In a Kubelwagen with a German soldier driver.
Right.
of course.
And that scene right there, it made me think of the painting where you've got Bogart at the, at the coffee bar. I don't remember.
Broken Dreams. Boulevard
There you go.
Broken Dreams.
That's exactly what when they pulled up there. I was fully expecting to see the James Dean Humphrey Bogart. I think it was like
Monroe. I think.
Bar. Yeah. And it's like I'm like, I'm like, here it comes. We're gonna do. Is this an homage thing? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it suddenly turns into Angel's Egg.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. And so then they, like they start getting creeped out, and like this, like, and the way that they do that scene, everything else is like really chaotic and just to and fro action. Oops, going to get laxatives out instead of horse tranquilizers because either one is a good choice.
Yeah.
But then they hit this scene, and it's like they're just driving. They're not really talking. And everything calms down for a moment, and everything is narrowed, and you're just like, okay, I'm about to see something important. Then you see the reaction of Mondo. Not Mondo. I just watched Mandalorian.
I'm not going to
It's
remember
not
names.
Baby Yoda, Steve.
Ataru's Baby Yoda. No, the two students, the guy with the sword who reminds me of Kuno in Ranma 1/2.
Yeah.
And Ataru, they just kind of stop and they're speechless and they don't really say anything. They're just like the wide eyed and they're just like following that little band with faceless band, and that's when you get the Oshii moment there, and you're just like, oh, there he is. and you're like wanting to understand what this is because clearly it means something, and they're freaked out by it.
Oh yeah.
And I was wondering, as I mentioned to you guys in the chat and the messaging a little bit earlier, I was wondering at that point if I had actually accidentally put in NyQuil into my whiskey and recall actually pouring the whiskey. Is this a dream? Where am I? What am I doing? And at this point, it was just a really weird, kind of cool moment, and where just things kind of, the focus just goes from like this weird stuff, and then just there you go, pay attention.
And it's a good example of where I think Oshii was very smart here to include that with the reactions of these wacky characters that we're used to. Yeah. It kind of contextualizes it of saying, I'm not just going to be artsy out of nowhere and just kind of drop it into this goofy movie. That is part of this goofy movie, and the goofy characters realize how weird this is.
Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting that whole thing when they're going down there is you become acutely aware when they leave the school. It's nighttime.
Yeah.
At any given point in nighttime, you've got some cars and some people and shops and stuff are opening. And as they're proceeding down to go get food, you become acutely aware of the fact that there's nothing. There's not really lights. There's not really anything going on except for the florist shop.
Yep.
And then this weird, mystical street parade occurs that is just like, okay. It's like, is this the foreboding of doom? I mean, what's going to happen now?
Yeah. And I think it's certainly reminiscent of the Night Parade of 100 Demons you saw in Pompoko. So it's kind of those things getting implied to the characters. And then Sakura starts asking and figuring out what's going on here. How strange everything is. And it is interesting how they kind of do this. I think it's hard in a movie like this where you're juggling comedy with a fairly heavy concept to communicate that in a way that doesn't sound like you're going, aren't you impressed at how deep I am?
No pretension.
Exactly. And I think this is fun because the characters are realizing it for themselves without them trying to be for the audience the realization of what's going on. Like, you could have already been clued in on this, but their realizations and their conversations and so forth are operating on their own level, which I think kind of works nicely. Partly because it's just such a weird idea, caught in a time loop.
Yeah. The Eternal Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Which is pretty freaking scary. And again, I appreciate that. The part of the movie is then, what do? Immediately they're like, okay, let's stop this. Let's break the loop. They all have to go home. They can't stay here tonight, and so we'll try to stop it that way, which doesn't work. And you get that wonderful, again, sort of comedic horror of them all splitting off and going in all their own directions, and then all eventually ending up back in the same spot.
Back to school.
And they're all like, what?
I would be thoroughly confused if I had ever gotten onto the Red Line Metro and then at Metro Center on my way back to Shady Grove and lying back in Metro Center because there is no loop.
Right, yeah, that's the thing.
There is no loop on that train. And I'd be thoroughly confused, and I probably would go, I'm going to stay on the train.
Yeah.
Well, creeped out right now.
I'm afraid to get off now.
Right, yes. What's going on?
A new fresh hell awaits me.
Yeah. And then they start planting all of this fun little stuff for later. And going back and watching it now, I realize how every so often they cut back to Lum. And they cut back to, her interacting with people and how happy she is. And she's a happy-go-lucky character, right? Like she lost a foot race to a human and so decided to live with him forever because he's her darling. Like she's not the brightest bulb in the drawer, but they are again sort of planting this idea that oh no, she's happy with all this, she's fine with all this. Huh.
And why is 10 the flying baby a flying baby?
Because he's 10 the flying baby.
Okay.
He's a character from the original, and he's just one of her family, and he's just a flying baby.
But it's not her and Ataru's kid.
No.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank
I was
God.
hoping I didn't miss it. There, be like,
no.
He's one of the many grandnephews of Tenchi.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. And then you get this wonderful sequence where, and I think this is one of Oshii's masterstrokes, where the characters are all walking back to school, and you get this very technically difficult shot of them walking and seeing them in their reflections in the water.
Yeah.
Because that's not easy to layer everything over and make it feel like you're looking at reflections in the water and not just weird overlays of things. Because it does get across this idea of, oh, we're not in reality anymore. We're in some reflection of what's going on.
And you didn't cover this in one of your panels, Brent? Because the puddle scene and the wind chimes through the alleyways, I've seen that in a panel, and for the love of me, I can't figure out which panel I saw.
Yeah, no, I have not, because I have not pulled stuff from this movie.
Dang.
Yeah.
Somebody covered that, and they went through exactly that. They're like, look at how this was rendered.
Yeah.
Look at the rest of the film. And you can tell that there's something specifically for you to look at in what's going on in this scene. That should draw your eye for you to try and figure out, what am I looking at? Am I looking at the reflection? Am I looking at the reality? Well, how do I determine what's going on here? It's like,
Yep, absolutely.
And then Ataru sinks.
Yeah.
Why not?
And it gets weird.
Yes, it does.
Oh, boy.
Yes, it does.
Whereupon, the tank shows back up. And this is the point, I think, where, again, I think Oshii was smart in saying, okay, we're being weird for a while. We're sort of setting the tone here. What's the next step? There's a tank in the pool. Everybody's freaking out. Ataru shows up in there, and so I forget his name, white suit guy.
Is it Mendao?
Mendo, yeah, Mendo.
That must be it.
Because the noodle shop is the Mendao family
right.
secret base.
Yeah,
that's right. That's it.
I just love that scene where Lum just kind of goes, like, I'm going to give you the count to 3, and all the students that are around just go, oh.
Run!
We know it's coming. And of course, as an audience, we now have an idea what's coming too, because lightning and water do not mix very well. No.
Nobody died, so that was the plus.
Exactly, yeah. It's all good. It's all fine. And then we get our wonderful sort of horror movie sequence where they'll go back to their high school and they're all wandering around trying to figure out what's going on. And it turns sort of MC Escher.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that scene. That whole entire scene, I love that.
The endless hallway
Stairs.
of like, wow.
And again,
stairs and like,
think of how hard that is to animate.
Yeah.
Totally.
It is commitment to the shtick.
Mandel running. I'm scared of the dark. I'm scared of the dark. My darling. It's just like trapped in like the forever mirror.
Yeah.
And then everyone else is just like going, opening up windows. Now I'm just like going, wait a minute, my head hurts.
And it's an odd kind of a red herring, because I think all up to this point in the movie they've been pointing out that they're all kind of centers on Tomobiki High, And so you figure, oh, okay, so obviously it's become haunted or something, right? It's Ghostbusters, right? Like we need to resolve that. And so that doesn't work, obviously. And so Mendo goes, let's go to my noodle shop because I have a Harrier jet there.
I love that. I love the fact, too, that it's like a Harrier jet has a very, it's a jet. So it makes a jet noise. And yet they purposely used a sound that sounded like literally like a spacecraft.
Interesting,
When it's lifting off, it does not sound like it should sound. Which afterwards, it's like, oh, I get that.
Yeah.
I see you made it sound weird because it's supposed to sound weird.
Right. It's not actually a Harrier jet. That's a great point. Mm-hmm. And then you get.
But I just love Mandow's
Go ahead.
Mandow's reaction to when they're like, "Oh, we're going to your new. What? We're not hungry." And he goes, "No, it's fool. It's where I keep my Harrier jet."
Right, exactly.
Idiot! You fool! Don't you know that people like me have 40-ton leopard tanks that we can magically put on the second story of a building? And I carry the samurai sword around, and no one seems to want it to take away from me at school. I can fly. And the fact that you can fly.
What's that
and having people just sort of clustered all over it. Given the fact that a Harrier jet has an enormous intake fan right behind the cockpit, that would have sucked half the people in. Like, yeah.
Because hey, Chibi should have been just
little
character too. Gone.
Absolutely.
But again, I think all of that, the weirdness of the sound, just the ludicrous element of it, like it's stock hilarity. You know what I mean? It's like this is just kind of a goofy, kind of funny thing. But in retrospect, again, you look back at it, and it's like they're not reacting to this as bizarrely as it entirely is.
It's dreamlike.
It's like, yeah, exactly. And that's like, oh, yeah. It's like, to dial that back to figure out why that's just...
Granted, stuff like this does happen in a TV show. Like, there is weird, bizarre, it's like, oh, yes, my Harrier jet. But I don't
not
think
people clustered on the outside of it like that.
Probably. But still, I agree with you that I think this is kind of amping it up, right? It is sort of pushing it to an extent. And then you get the reveal, the what I like to call the Discworld reveal.
Yes.
Great Tatooine.
Exactly. Love it.
I got... what I was going to say is I got the Dark City feel. Right? Discworld, you're right though on that, but the Dark City for science fiction, and I was just like, oh great, but then they went underneath, and there's Onsen guy and the monk, and I'm just like,
I was waiting for elephants.
on top of the turtle, and then I'm like going, turtle. Well, that was from it. No, that's not right.
Well, that's another throwback, because once they see this, it occurred to me that Sakura was riding in a taxi that was Blue Turtle Taxi.
Oh, nicely done.
Wait a minute. And I'm like, Blue Turtle Taxi, and she's trying to get to the Dragon Palace. I'm like, oh, this is Princess Orihime kind of thing, isn't it? I'm like, wait a minute.
Nicely found. I had not noticed that. And again, this is where I kind of really fell in love with this movie. Is I think in a Hollywood movie, this would have turned into like the action sequence at this point. How are we going to fix this? How are we going to resolve this? And this turns into like an isekai series, kind of. It's like, okay, we're here now.
Yeah.
And we're just going to exist.
Well, the good questions that get asked with no answer. how come the water's still on?
Right.
How come there's still heat? How come this convenience store keeps having food?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody answers the question. Cool.
Yep.
I feel bad for Ataru's mom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that poor lady was put under a lot of weight there.
Yeah. And again, the movie takes a turn where something becomes about Megane, talking about, he sort of turns into almost an Apocalypse Now, movie where it's all something is different and my gosh. And again, I think when you hit this point in the movie, it feels a little like of an odd shift, but I think you need somebody to explain to you what's going on. Ataru's not going to be the one. Lum's not going to be the one. It has to be some side character who's like, yeah, this is effing weird.
Yeah.
And
Mendel really, he steps into that from being a sort of, haughtily jerk to actually, he and Sakura working fairly behind the scenes, blowing up buildings for him. Whatever. Working out, all the details and fleshing out the underpinnings of this bizarre turtle world in which they now live.
Yeah. Speaking of which, did you guys notice the shot of him in the tank going up over the hill while another Jeep goes under it, just like an angel's egg?
Yeah, I was going to say, because it had specifically the turret on the side.
Oh, that's where you pulled that from. Good to know. Of course, Angel's Egg is just a remake of Urusei Yatsura.
Sure.
Yeah.
Who's Lum in Angel's Egg?
Yeah.
It's not the little creepy girl.
Yeah. And then you get this very, again, sort of classically sort of Rumiko Takahashi sequence of them all in bathing suits, hanging out, having fun, eating ramen, just kind of enjoying their lives.
Post-apocalyptic wasteland.
It's so weird. But that is kind of the point. And I'm watching Godzilla. I forgot that, too. Literally Godzilla movie. And I think it's interesting, too, because this is also a point socially where the otaku phenomenon exists. Hikikomori and things like that have started to exist. And so I think there's also a bit of a commentary here on the idea of eternal adolescence, that you're just, living out your days without a care in the world and just kind of relaxing, and not really thinking about it, not really thinking about what's going on in your lives.
That one screenshot, Brent.
Oh yeah,
his idiot friend who's sitting there with his boxer shorts.
You noticed that too, huh? Yep.
Oh yeah. Down
I
saw that. I was like, excuse me.
So I naturally, whenever I see scenes like that, I naturally go, counterclockwise for some reason.
See what's
and I
going
came
on around them.
Yeah, going around. Okay, yeah, they're still. Yeah, okay, guys holding like, all right, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I just no. We don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't we have a Taru already? Don't we have a Taru already? Come on. Come on,
man. Go out the yard. Go out with the Harrier jet that's got the laundry hanging off.
You got a whole
respect for others.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nobody wants that.
In fairness,
I thought it was interesting. They never addressed how long they were there. I
True.
thought that was interesting. That all of the wreckage you see of the city, like sections of it that are like wholly razed to the foundations.
Mm-hmm.
There's no indication. That kind of thing, unless it was Mendel blowing everything up, that means that the decay of the surrounding area has been ongoing.
Well, and that's the other thing. That's
like hundreds of years of decay.
Yeah, and when you see him blowing up things, like he's blowing up things. He doesn't have a decay ray.
Yeah.
The implication is, that they have been living in this eternal summer for like literally centuries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is disturbing.
Yeah, it is. And again, it's one of the neat things about the movie is that like nobody says that, and none of them would have recognized that, right? That's the whole point. is that this is just kind of letting them live in this world, and it just never occurs to them because dream logic. But as an audience, you're seeing that going, oh,
Yeah, because one of the things that confused me about the time passing was that first I saw the I forget, I don't know the character's name, but Mr. He had the jack boots and hat. He grew a ponytail, but none of the others grew any hair or anything like that.
Yeah.
And Ataru's father is reading a newspaper. They say, well, he keeps getting the newspaper. How is he keep getting the newspaper? I'm like going, are you reading the same thing over and over again?
Yeah.
I mean, there are books that I like Dune, that I've read up to a billion times, but there'll be times I'll be just like, not today. Let me choose Altered Carbon today. There's change it up. So is there any news that he's reading? And if so, is it just kind of because I can't imagine it'd be the same newspaper every day. Yep, still rubble. Yep, still same old thing. You're supposed to be a jerk. And he's happy with that. Yes, I don't know. Or is it like, hey, it's Japan, 2128, and this is what's going on. Just to let you know while you're up in Dreamland.
1,000 years have passed, and they finally invented smell-o-vision. Awesome.
Sweet.
Bing Crosby's horse finally's come in. I'm sorry, this is from an old Warner Brothers cartoon. Sorry, wrong medium. Right medium, wrong show.
There we go. Actually, I want to take a moment to look at chat here real quick. Jay in the chat is noting that Orihime, great story, sees importance in a lot of anime. You're absolutely right. Orihime just comes up over and over and over again. And it's hard because it is, again, kind of like Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella to us, where even when it's not like the plot, it's often subtext, it's often kind of being pulled in. Jay also says, I love anime in many ways because you can actually see little Easter eggs of other medias and animes if you look closely. Totally.
Yeah. Oh, this one's totally chock full of it. That's absolutely right.
Yeah. And so they then we start accelerating into the third act basically, where Sakura and Mendo start really investigating, figuring out what's actually going on, and confront their actual
which
enemy.
You realize the Blue Turtle taxi driver was Mujok. Because thinking back on that, I was just like, the voice is this. Who is? I heard that voice. Oh my gosh, it's the taxi driver. I'm like, oh crap.
And I do also enjoy, again, you have all of this seriousness, all of this build up, and then the actually very Cagliostro reveal of he's been behind all of these tragedies of history and all of these terrible things and all this. And how do you know that?
Yeah.
It's in this book. 1,001 supernatural facts.
It's responsible for everything from Adam and Eve to Hitler.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? I'm like, this is insane. Good job. You've made me believe this movie's nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100%.
And it's one of the weird things, and it's why I have difficulty when folks are like, oh, I love Rumiko Takahashi. What else has she done? I've seen Inuyasha. What else has he done? I'm like, here's the thing. She's changed. This is not Inuyasha. It is very, very ridiculous. Even down to just kind of the personality and identity in general, who this character is interesting because in so many things where you have this sort of dream within a dream, who is your enemy, they go with a very goofy character. He's just this bizarre circus master, ringmaster type, and he's never treated seriously, really throughout the entire thing. Even though he's the one, he is the one responsible for all this.
He has all this cosmic power, and even he recognizes that he's basically, in the end, everyone's dream turns into a nightmare. Like when he was talking about Hitler, he was just like, you get the inferred reference that he just wanted to be an artist, and that's what he was trying to do. Oops, 6 million lives later,
Yeah.
You know, it's just, okay, you're goofy. You're goofy, but you really messed up.
Yeah.
And he seems to understand that to a degree, and that's when he comes across Lum, and he goes, "Oh, pure of heart. You know what? This will be the last dream, and I'm not going to mess this one up because I'm going to be the caretaker of this dream." And that's when you just discover the true horror, because this is the guy who created Hitler.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Mujok is not an objectionable kind of character. I mean,
No.
you don't see him in a sort of misty, darkened kind of I manipulate dreams. No, he's just kind of a goofy little pudgy dude. And he seems like fairly likable.
Well, and like he makes the point that he's not responsible for what happens in the dreams. He's just there to make them happen, and it is where those people take those dreams where the bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
He's kind of the warden, but he is in no way planning all this out. Which again is where the movie kind of gets interesting. It's where it kind of gets deep. Where you're like, oh, dang, I have responsibility for my actions. And even there, again, you have this thing where ultimately, Lum's lovely little dream, her fantasy, has locked these people away for centuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she goes back, way back at the beginning of the movie, when she sits there where the one girl says, why do you have that stupid grin on your face, essentially?
Yeah.
And Love turns around and goes, well, I just want to be with, Darling and his friends and this, that.
Forever.
Everything. And then forever, then as the movie goes on, and you're just like going, oh boy. Okay.
Yep.
She got her wish.
Yep, exactly. Precisely.
She got her wish.
That is kind of the tragedy. Is it's like, oh dear.
Well, it's also interesting that people who you don't see them necessarily cross Lum, but like that scene where they're making tea, and the I don't remember that girl's name.
Yeah.
The our character.
Super strong one.
Yeah.
Yep.
She talks about, sometimes you need to be there to be aware for somebody else to make sure that they're okay, that someone you care for. And it's like, okay, I don't know who she's trying to relate to. Is it Ataru or is it somebody else? But she apparently crosses Lum enough that in that wind chime sequence, she gets her own time to go away.
Yep.
And people start to, not be around by the end of the show. Onsen Mark is missing.
Yep.
She's missing. And it's just like, so are these people that cross Lum or that just don't fit neatly into her concept of a happy experience? So she just inadvertently exits them?
Yep.
Like, ooh.
I think it's just I think between that and the dream guy, I think what is happening is that the dream guy sees what's happening with the particular character that might interfere with the dream. That's why Sakura says at that point, right before they do the confrontation, he goes, clearly Mandao and I are going to be next, because they're figuring it out.
Right.
And they know that whatever the power is behind all of this is going to go, yeah, you're disturbing this person's dream, whoever it is. You're going to have to go away. So we're going to take you, put you on top of the turtle, and have you hold up for eternity, the wasted wasteland of the anime Discworld. So here you go.
Yep.
This is just like, wow. mess with Lum's dream, and out the door you go.
Whereupon you get this odd, I'm going to call it odd,
harem scene?
Well, yeah. It's not just the harem scene, because I don't want to show the nudity. But it's but it's sort of this weird redemption arc for Ataru, where you get to see just like how strongly he feels about Lum, and how he's gonna keep on doing this, for as long as it takes, which leads to this legitimately tragic sequence. Well, first off, you get the remake of the first episode sequence where he's racing against Lum and they fall and so forth and so on. Which is, again, great Easter egg for those who've seen the show before. The Frankenstein thing. But then this whole science fiction thing, where like he wakes up in this pod and he realizes that, Lum was sent with him and she didn't make it. And like, I'll be honest, I felt something there. Like it suddenly, like, man, this feels real in an odd way. And in a way that is very interesting for Lum's dream. Right?
Well, I was kind of wondering, like, didn't they use this in Alien or Aliens?
Mm-hmm. Aliens and
they cryo freeze. Yeah, they cryo freeze Ridley, and the little girl, her cryo freeze chamber goes wrong and she drowns. So that kind of exits the little girl from the thing. It's like, so I saw this and I'm like, oh no.
There's that, and there's Planet of the Apes where they're coming back to Earth, and the one woman among the three guys in the spaceship, she's all shriveled up and inside the little cryogenic thing.
Yeah.
But I was kind of interested in that. I'm like you with Brent, because I'm just like, wait a minute, isn't this Lum's dream?
Yeah, and granted, like it's technically Ataru's dream because he's kind of trying to give Ataru his ideal life, but it's Ataru's dream about Lum, and so to make it, his dream of how Lum would be, in a sense, it's his subconscious telling him, like, you actually do care about this girl. Like, you say you care about the girl, and because you're making this big bravado thing. But, like, this is how much this really would impact you if something happened to her.
Yeah.
And again, you don't see her, but her skin's effing pale in that sequence. Like, it's clear no, that's not going to happen. Which then builds into the famous DNA sequence. Which has been sort of reviewed and reused and referenced in various spots, where the movie just finally goes, okay, let's sit down and really talk about this.
And you get the creepy little girl
yes,
hiding the DNA
yes,
in the background.
yes.
There she
By
goes.
The way,
the night parade girl. There she goes again.
So to me, when we hit this sequence, I was just like going, okay, this is the point where they said, where the storyboard staff or whatever at the animation studio just said, oh, we gotta stop this somehow. We just keep on going, and we need to really figure out an end. What do we do? DNA strand, creepy little girl, and just have them just going all around them and doing whatnot, because it's totally not really for me. It was like the one scene that just separates itself from everything else.
Yeah,
and it's just the one scene where you're supposed to. When you think about it, actually that scene is actually very minimal.
Yes.
So it's just like the scene when at the beginning of the movie when they see the little band walk across, you're supposed to settle down and just concentrate on what you're being told. And
absolutely,
this is, it's kind of like, okay, fun time's over. You got to pay attention now.
Yeah. It will be a test at the end of the chapter.
You're gonna have to figure out who the creepy girl is in the back.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And something that Oshii does, I mean, a lot, is this slowing down the movie, really making you pay attention. And I also love this sequence because it is, again, kind of animators talking direct. It's animators communicating things through animation, because this is something that, and I'm fast forwarding here so you can see it, but when you're watching it, you're like, oh, okay, that is a repeated loop in the background, right? And they're just, okay, they animated this thing, and they're just looping it over and over and over. And it keeps changing. And it keeps moving. And it keeps shifting. You're like, oh, gods, they're spending minutes animating. Like, that is an insane amount of work.
Yeah.
Just for something happening in the background for, visuals. It's like, oh, kill me. Because they're saying like this, and again, it's we're not pausing and having this long dialogue scene to be cheap. We're not slowing it down to be cheap. Like, we are telling you something, and because this is really the one moment in the movie that's not a dream. Obviously it's not reality, but it is not a dreamscape that he's invented. This is where he actually kind of confronts what's going on, and is able to kind of go through it. Whereupon he wakes up. And it's all over. It was only a dream. Right? It was a dream. They're all back in their club
Classroom.
Yep. They've
all spent the night.
Mm-hmm.
The tank is still there.
Yep. Tank is there. And then, little guy says goodbye and walks away. He's right there. Whereupon, and this is where, oh man, I love this movie. You get the title card for the movie. Like, the actual title of the movie does not come in until 1 hour and 26 minutes into the movie. And it's literally hanging off their school. Oh, lost Steve there for a second.
Oops. Steve went out.
Oh no. He can't handle it.
The dream ended
exactly.
and he woke up.
Exactly. And it's just so meta.
Yeah. Well, it's also one of those things where you get to the end of the film and it's like, is it the end?
Mm-hmm.
Because Mujak's the master of dreams.
Right.
He could have seen that the dream wasn't going right,
so
he pulled the plug.
Yep.
And when Otaru comes back, and it's like, oh no, we're back in the classroom, everything's cool. It's like, but Mujak's still there.
Yep.
So if Mujak's still there, that means this could still be a continuation of the dream. So it's just like, that's kind of funny.
Yep. Oh, the end scene, yeah.
Well, and I loved I thought it was very interesting. There's a line of dialogue where, I think it is in this ending sequence, where somebody kind of rolls his eyes and goes, we're just going to keep on doing this forever. And not only is that sort of a line speaking to the entire movie, it's a line speaking to, like, the nature of sitcoms themselves. Right? Like, that is literally what they are fated to do, is to just be corny, goofy high schoolers for the rest of the time. Because that's what they were literally written to do. And it does, again, it's one of those smart things where I think at the end it does make you think of, oh God, this is, the whole point of this is entertainment, to make me watch them just repeat the same actions for eternity.
Same slip and fall gags, the same pantsu shots.
Yep.
Whole skirt flip mistake every time. Walk into the room and see somebody undressing, get slapped in the face. Yep. Yeah. The eternity of that loop.
Yep. It's like, dang, Oshii, you actually made a whole statement about the nature of anime and the nature of these sorts of shows right there. And when it was pulling back, I'm curious about you guys. When I saw that, I was like, is this going to be a model? Is it going to reveal that this school is inside a globe or something? Right? I was waiting for that.
Rosebud.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, and you notice they pull out.
Beautiful Dreamers was Citizen Kane anime.
There we are. You pull out, and the walls in front of the school are blank. There's no posters, there's no sign for the school, there's nobody walking out there. It's just empty. And again, I don't know, but it's one of those, that's an oddly interesting sort of environment to end the movie on. I don't know.
Perhaps it represents the budget running out.
Oh, true. Yes, absolutely.
Let's put some posters in the side. No, we've got no more money. We did the whole DNA thing. We got no more money.
Oh, likely.
Nothing left.
Yeah,
Nothing.
the movie comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, just so we're gonna animate this final scene as we're drawing back. No, literally hold that cell and walk backwards. Keep filming it. Let's go. Let's go. We got no time for this. Keep moving.
Speaking of which, Mamoru Oshii, I saw him in an interview about Ghost in the Shell, where he said, "By the way, if you ever wondered why there are no like special features around like cuts that didn't make it into the movie, it's because we had neither the time nor the budget for extra shots. Like." That was all we could do. Like, everything we did made it into the movie. Like, there was not going to be, like, tons of extra material. That was...
Yeah.
That we were done. So, yeah, that is not uncommon. But, yeah, that's Urusei Yatsura Beautiful Dreamer. It's a very unusual film, really, all things considered.
For as wacky a slapstick comedy as I was led to believe that Urusei Yatsura is, it was a surprisingly not nearly as goofy, slapsticky as I expected.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it, just because it was just first of all, I love her work, so and it was a really new thing to me, so that was kind of fun. I had originally tried watching, I kind of run with whatever I can get my hands on. So if it comes out to be a sub or a dub, I just kind of go with it. And I usually go with English dubs because that's usually what I get. So I was actually watching the sub for a change. So I was watching this on Retro Crush. I was watching and listening to the Japanese language and doing the subtitles, and I was really enjoying it. The Retro Crush does this kind of weird ad thing, and then it was just like going 10 minutes of the show, 10 minutes of ad, and it was just bothering me. So I went on to Tubi, because I remember you saying it was on Tubi, and I went on there, and it was just like, here you go, here's the English stuff, and I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm watching it, and it's the English voice cast on it, and as I'm still enjoy the movie, by the way, but I was just like, for the first time, I was just like, in a very long time, where I was just like, I kind of prefer the Japanese. I prefer the subtitle version, and the reason why I felt that way was because I felt like all the Japanese voice cast was much more connected in their voice acting, and that they were really kind of more playing off of each other as opposed to, here's my lines, here's the mic, here's the thing, do your job. And like particularly with Ataru, I felt the guy who did Ataru's voice, Japanese, was really. I mean, that was Ataru to me. When we got to the English version, okay, he's playing a lecherous, goofy guy, and that's cool, but it just didn't have the same gravitas, I guess, as the Japanese stuff. And another reason why I really liked this movie was that all the recycled character designs of all the different series in this movie. So if you're a fan of her stuff, you're gonna be like, Sakura's what's her name from Meisani Koku? He's Udo from Rhinelander 1/2. She's this and he's that. And, and you just kind of go through it. And it's just kind of fun to identify those characters. And but I think the big selling point for me for this particular movie was the animation, the fact that it was Oshii that directed this and made it fun and with a glimpse of seriousness, and it was just a good movie. I felt it was a good movie.
There we go.
And it aged well. That's the other part of it.
Yeah.
It definitely aged well. You can definitely see some of these anime made in the 70s and the 80s, and you're just kind of like, okay, yeah. That's your version of cell phone in 1979. Okay.
Kimigori Orange Road.
Right.
Really dated.
Yeah,
this stood the test of time, because I think that the way that the characters are done, it's not trying to either be anywhere even remotely near realistic, really. And the caricatures of them, that makes it stand the test of time, I think. So it was cool.
Yeah, I agree.
I hated Lum saying darling. Whoever the English voice actress was for that, oh boy. So every time she said darling, it just grated on me. I'm like, oh, stop saying that. Stop saying it.
Yeah, and I watched the English dub on Prime, and I know there were two dubs of this, so I'm not sure which dub it was. It's not a great dub. It is, it's not a terrible dub, I would say, but it's very much, and I totally agree with you, Steve. It's just, it's folks doing their lines, doing their best, but it just kind of doesn't come together as a really good dub. Also, they don't pronounce the Japanese names correctly. So it's like, Mandao and Sakura, I think, was her name. Yeah, so stuff like that. And multiple characters are doing it, so clearly there was some miscommunication about it, or lack of communication, whatever. So for me it was, and the reason I watched the English dub is because I had seen it before, so I knew it was happening, so I wanted to pay attention to the visuals. So I didn't care really the audio, but I would definitely say if you have a chance, I think the Japanese dub would probably be the way to go if you can.
Yeah.
Such is life. And again, it's one of the problems with these older properties where it's like, okay, well, we're probably going to dub it. Who cares? Of the folks who are watching this, the classic fans, they're going to watch the Japanese dub anyway. So you're probably not getting a lot of Wendy Lees on this one, unfortunately. Such is life. But yeah, that is Urusei Yatsura 2, Beautiful Dreamer. Next week we'll be talking about Megazone 2-3, the classic mecha OVA that is a trip. Oh boy.
Yeah.
A lot happens in that OVA. A lot of people making some questionable decisions as well, but we'll get to that. So that is what we'll talk about next time. Meanwhile, let us go ahead and we're going to take a quick break and come back in a little bit to talk about various fun things, news and such. We'll just chat a little bit about some topics particularly related to the anime industry itself. So we will see you all in a little bit. See you.
So 9:15, I'm guessing.
That's right.
All right, we'll see you guys at 5. Yeah.
I was talking to Brandon about this last night. Hopefully, no one will hear this on the channel. So there's a song called "I Sit on Acid." Horrendous remix. I
Sit on acid.
I sit on acid by the Lords of Acid.
Okay.
And it's a techno song from the 90s. It starts with just this little organ music and it's a kind of fugue in B. And it starts off like that, and then you hear the voice at first, and like I was watching this movie through the whole thing. I kept hearing every time the one said "darling," I would get the lyric in my darling. I would get the lyric in my head. And it goes into the techno music. So every time Lum says "darling," I'm like going, "Oh no."
It's Ataru's dream come true. He's getting the moment that he's hoping for. Come here, Lum. Let me peel off that bikini. Ah, no. Yeah, I enjoy the Lum character, and interestingly enough, her facial character type is there. This a couple years ago, there was a Disney series called Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and Lum's facial look with the blue eyes is a lot. It's really close to the character facial they used for the character Star from that series, and I'm like, it's really weird. But then I've noticed a lot of times that American animation is really taking a lot of influence from Japan animation.
Lion King was its own thing. It was not based on
Kimba the White Lion. No.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, I can see where you can say classic cartoons. The Laugh Olympics. I can see where you'd say, well, those are pretty much on their own. The Walter Lantz cartoons, they're pretty much on their own. They're a cultural thing from North American market.
Right.
But I think nowadays, looking at a lot of the way that they've done some current animation styles for U.S. houses of animation, it's starting to blend closer and closer. There was an article that was actually on Netflix, and how Netflix, their sponsoring production of animation is blurring the lines between Japanimation and not Japanese animation. I was like, interesting.
Hello, chat.
Crappy.
How you doing? Good to see y'all. Those guys are still on break. Thought I'd say hello to chat. Jay, Spin, good to see you here. Absolutely. The central theme of Urusei Yatsura is that these characters will stay together. They want to stay together. That's just a facade or dream. I would say they do want to stay together, and that is sort of central, but that is unhealthy in many ways. That is a real desire they have, but that desire has negative consequences, right? So how are you all doing? Like I said, we'll go back to the other guys in just a few minutes while they're on break, but thought I'd check in. Gilded Suns, seeing you there. You both loved your Beautiful Dreamer. Awesome. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would argue season 2 of Haruhi is very much pulled from Beautiful Dreamer. Hey, Spin. Spoiler alert. How have your weeks been? How's been stuff in your anime worlds? I've been sort of moving forward on some of the stuff for the live shows. I watched a little bit of Megazone 2-3, getting ahead of the curve. Also been reading some manga, which has been fun. So I'll share a bit more about that later. But how about you guys? If there are enough folks in the chat, not a lot of time. Yeah, I hear that. It's a weird time, right? It's a weird world. Been rewatching some oldies. What have you been watching, Jay? I don't think I've watched any more of Kumu 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 Bear. Watched some of that previous week.
But it's so
That is a
cute.
fun one. It is definitely cute.
Air puppets of doom.
Oh my goodness.
Very easy cosplay too. City Hunters Bubblegum Crisis. Nice. In fact, just yesterday I tweeted a whole bunch of Bubblegum Crisis fan art on my Twitter. So go to G Archaeology, you'll see some fun Bubblegum Crisis fan art, including a really cool like Hollywood CGI movie sort of version of the lightsabers. So all done up, kind of like a Marvel poster. Looks really cool. Like I don't know that I'd want the movie to look like that, but it was one of those really that'd be awesome to imagine that. Bubblegum Crisis, I think, is one of those franchises that would translate pretty well to like Hollywood live action. You have to tweak some things, obviously. Hey, man. This was on Sci-Fi. I did not realize that. Wow, watch with your father who's not watching anime before minds were blown. Yeah, I can imagine. Dang. Wow, yeah, I did not realize that was on Sci-Fi. And I was a heavy watcher of the Sci-Fi Channel. Victorian Romance Emma. Oh, that is such a lovely series. Pure romance. Just pure romance. In fact, one of the manga I was reading is a pure romance, not Emma, but yeah. Since I do see a few folks in the chat, I was wondering if folks would be interested in a little giveaway, because I do have a poster here, as it turns out. So if folks in the chat would be interested in a little poster from New Type, I have a poster, and unfortunately I do not know who these characters are. I'll see if I can tell from the thing. Something bouquet. So cute anime girls with water, and then this character here, again, not familiar with her. Looks vaguely familiar, character design wise, but not sure. So if one of you would like a copy of this poster, I will be glad to give that away. We will do it the standard way that we've been doing it for a while. We will use the die of anime genres. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this real quick. This will come up with a genre. Let me pull that up actually on the thing. Somewhere over here, and I am not good at naming this, obviously. Oh, there it is. Cool. So I'm going to roll that right now. It is on a die. It's really hard to read, but I think we can do it. So in the chat, please predict for me which genre I rolled on, which anime genre we are on, and whoever gets it first, in my view of the chat, and obviously it looks a little different for everybody, that person will win that very poster. Goto. Okay, cool. Wow, Spin, well done. It is historical. First try. Bang on. Congratulations, Spin. I'm going to have to double check just to make sure that I have Spin, I'm sure you've won before in the past, right? So like I have your address, don't I? I don't see you in my history. So if you could just really quick message me on Discord, so you pop up in my Discord, so I remember which name points to you, I will shoot you a copy. Oh, I'll shoot you this literal thing. Himigato, daughter of Kakishigoto. Ah, right. Of course. So yeah, if you could please just pop me a quick message on Discord when you get a chance. We will. I will send that out to you all. So send that out to you specifically. Congratulations. Now, we have something else we wanted to talk about. This came in from the Discord, actually. And with the guys in here in a second to talk about this, but I wanted to give you all a chance to talk about this as well. We had a topic in from, let me get this correctly, from Game Escape in the chat. Game Escape says, I think it'd be interesting to talk about how, if at all, the pandemic will affect the anime industry moving forward. I know some industries are expecting lasting changes, for better or worse, and I'm curious to know what might happen in anime or related media. That's a great question. Because I think we've already seen some effects. Obviously it's hard to get all these people together in one room to animate. But fortunately, anime is something that can pretty easily be pandemicified, because you can get animators, tell animators to stay home, complete their shots, and then scan them, send them in, or just send someone around to collect the drawings and then scan them in. So the industry is actually pretty resilient. Manga as well, I think, is pretty resilient, because again, it's sort of folks pretty disconnected. Mangaka often have assistants, but it's not too hard to say, okay, I have two assistants in the house, but they're in sort of different spots of the room, or they can stay at home for whatever. So manga doesn't seem to be like hugely impacted. Obviously there's some, but I don't see a huge impact there. Anime, I think it's more production schedules, right? Hey Manav, good to see you. So a lot of it has been just sort of delays in things as folks reshift to a work from home approach, and the fact that the anime industry just is not digital. It isn't designed around having everybody in completely different places. It's really designed around that. And I think it's also going to have an impact just on more, I would say, the speed of decision making and just kind of quality. I think it's a lot harder to communicate with staff when you're not all in the same room. I think it was just a lot easier when everyone was in, say, the same building, more or less. I mean, you could go around, people were in different houses and such, especially the more senior animators. But a lot of the animators would be in studio. So I think it was just a lot easier for directors to go around and look at things, for people to communicate, to have these meetings. And I think that's just, that's going to slow down sort of that creative process. So I think in some ways it might lead to less anime being made, not dramatically less, but I think it's going to be a little harder to make those conversations. Harder to do all the planning, harder to do all the prep for an anime series than it was in the past. I don't know, what do you all think? How do you think the industry will be affected by the pandemic? Like I said, I don't think it's a huge impact in terms of the industry can't possibly react. Fortunately, also, there's a pretty strong differentiator between fans and staff. So it's not like, the industry was reliant on conventions to get out announcements and things like that. That's been pretty much standard. Just, okay, we're going to post a video, we're going to open a website. So that stuff was useful, but not like really critical to the overall flow of marketing and such. So that's an advantage. We've certainly seen sort of a bounce back in the industry. It's been, obviously we saw a dip in shows in the middle of the year, but it started to come back. Manav asks, how many years have you been watching anime, sir? About 25 now? With some dips here and there where I'd spend, a few months, maybe even a year and a half, not really watching much anime. But yeah, it's been 25-year journey. I'm old. Have you ever felt anime fatigue? Absolutely. I have anime fatigue frequently. Like I said, I would spend, I spent like a year, 2 years where I'd spend, obviously, anime is around, it's not like I would refuse to watch anime, but I just didn't feel like it. I just didn't really want to watch anime for long periods. And it always came back. But it's also worth pointing out that, like, that's okay. Like, you can have hobbies that you have for a while and then kind of, go down. And they probably will never completely disappear. But I certainly have interests in the past that, were really big for me for a little while, and then they kind of abated, and I moved on to other things. I don't think it's a sign of anything defective in somebody. If they're just in anime wanes, it could be temporary, or it could be any number of things. That's fine. That's being human, I would say if you do feel like you're in a dry spell, one of the best ways I have found, most effective ways I found to combat that is to go on a streaming service of your choice, go to the alphabetical, choose a letter, and then scroll down looking for something that catches your eye for whatever reason, and just click on that and watch an episode. And just watch something completely random, you have no idea what it is, just to, spark something new, and just explore weird aspects of the medium. For me, that's a great way to just kind of re-spark my interest in the medium and find something unusual. And it's not even so much about the anime, it's just about breaking the routine, and just doing something different and sparking your mind to go, oh yeah, I can, I've been doing this, let me do something different for a little while, just to redirect, the brain a little bit. Not a big deal, though. Yeah. So let me bring in the other guys, actually talk about this question about the industry. What exactly? You could get to see, I am Prince of Tennis. I am Prince of Tennis.
Joy.
And they're all laughing. Let me turn that off. Not them laughing.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, there we go. All that stuff, because we're not talking about Urusei Yatsura anymore. Gosh, yeah, that's an experience, isn't it?
But that would help with a dry spell.
It sure would.
If you're really in what is it? The Legends of the Galactic Heroes.
Yeah.
All the political machinations, everything that's going on, the fleet battles, everything. Watch a stage musical of Prince of Tennis. That would really lighten the mood.
It will. It's most certainly will. I actually did that a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, where I actually it happened to be on YouTube, and I watched the beginning of it, and I'm just going, this is totally new, different, and I want to go back to the animated stuff, because I wasn't handling very well the fact that there was a whole bunch of these guys, young guys with tennis rackets going, and I don't speak Japanese, but they're just like, it's just like, the hills are alive with the sound of
tennis. Well, you could have thrown on the Apple and watched
It's
that.
True. Oh.
Comedy relief.
Oh.
And that would be a good mind wipe.
That's true.
Attack on Titan.
Mm-hmm. There we are.
Oh my goodness.
B I M. Hey. Bim's on the way. Hey. That is a movie, and I have a friend of mine who loves musicals, and I'm trying to get him to watch The Apple, because he also loves bad movies. And he is very aware of The Apple's reputation, and I'm like, this is perfect. This is the exact combination of those two things. Because the problem with The Apple, for those not familiar, The Apple is a sci-fi musical made in 1984, I believe, that failed miserably. And the problem with it is incredibly cheesy. It has all sorts of terrible things, but the music is legitimately earworms. You will remember the music. And so it's just no, I don't want this in my head. No, I don't like anything about this. Ugh.
It's a good way to start drinking.
Yep.
Jay just said there's a bad musical of Pokemon?
This does not surprise me.
Oh, there's that.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Oh, is there tap dancing involved? I really might not be able to handle that.
Let's see here. Well, there's a Pokemon musical in Pokemon itself, like in the games. No, okay. That's right. Pokemon Live was a musical stage show that toured the United States from September 15th, 2000 to January 28th, 2001. The musical was based on the Pokemon anime series using similar characters, clothing, and story elements, using songs previously released on the Pokemon anime soundtracks, Pokemon to be a Master, and Totally Pokemon as well. His original song is 90 minutes in length, telling the stories of Ash, Misty, and Brock traveling to win the Diamond Badge. The show was successful, but largely ignored by critics.
Can't imagine why.
Not sort of surprised, but yeah.
Pikachu, Pikachu.
I choose you.
It has never been released on video.
Oh,
Which seems like a crime.
That's
shame.
a crime.
That is absolutely. Apparently, it was planned for the United Kingdom, never happened. They were invited to perform in Dubai. No notes on whether that actually happened. There was a Portuguese version of the show and a Dutch adaptation. So there you go. So Chris Mitchell, the production stage manager for the tour, posted videos of the complete performance in 7 parts on his personal YouTube channel. So you can find it on YouTube, which we will be doing right after the show. Anyway.
Oh, goodness.
Pick out the whiskey.
You should see the Wikipedia article's entry showing the poster, which shows the cast. And all the Pokemon.
I did. Oh no! It's like cats.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it's not like cats. It is them trying to represent Pokemon as, full size,
Oh my god!
creatures on stage. And it's just, it's not, it's pretty bad. It's like Disney on Ice with Pokemon, and it's just
with no ice.
Right? Yeah, and it's like this doesn't really fit very well. But I'm sure if you're 6 years old, and Pokemon's the biggest thing in the world, it's a magical experience. Every time it's performed, a Broadway cast member dies inside. Probably true.
Inside the costume?
Well, but Jay.
Probably.
Yeah.
Cody Randall as Squirtle. He's dead! No.
Pika! Peek!
Pokemon
God.
by Andrew Lloyd Webber. Wait. All right. Yeah. That's a thing.
So what do you think about... bringing it back. The pandemic in the anime industry. Do we think it's going to have a significant long-term impact on the anime industry? Given the fact the anime industry is fairly conservative, not in the political sense. What do you guys think? Do you think that's going to be a significant thing?
I think, actually, there might be some positives that come out of this. One of the things that the theater, those of you who don't know, I used to work in theater before COVID. One of the things that the theater community is actually doing right now is reassessing how they do things and policies and processes. And by that, I mean in how they actually stage a show, how put on a show. So I would imagine that COVID, in terms of anime and manga, I think you made a good point about less of them, a little bit less being made. I think you might find that there's probably going to be an uptick in quality. I think you're going to find that people are going to be forced to make kind of harder but more sensible choices. I don't think you're going to see a lot of oh, here's an idea. Let's do a anime on a guy who acts as Pikachu on a play. Let's see if that sticks to the wall. But no, seriously, there might be some better choices that are coming down the pike, or just more interesting choices, or possibly might be that next stage of animation where the CGI starts to improve because each budget is going to be more focused on, you guys got to do a good thing here. You got to keep people interested. So I think there's some positives there.
Well, I think the dip we saw this season, I mean, quite honestly, when the pandemic started really wrapping up to like high speed there, I got really, really worried, the delays, and that we were just going to see a smoldering ruin for all the fall in through the winter.
Right.
And there was a dip. And then things started chugging along because, like all of us with the pandemic, we've tried to do our best to work out what's the new normal.
Yeah.
So trying to get the job done required sort of re-gearing and rethinking about what parts you could put in different places, how you could have, interlocking function to continue to produce this stuff that people still are working, but they're just not working in the actual studio itself. So I'm hopeful.
And
I don't know. But, I mean...
Totally.
Go ahead.
Sorry. And Manab makes a great point in the chat room. Demon Slayer. That movie has made all the money in the world under the pandemic. So clearly, it's not like folks aren't watching anime anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think with what Steve's saying, you're going to see this ability to get the quality merchandise and the quality product out of this stuff regardless of the pandemic. And now that they've sort of worked out the kinks in the process, it should, once the pandemic lightens up and we move forward, I'm really hoping that we should see the industry itself with a new model of how to get this done. And it'll be more efficient, hopefully. It'll pay better for all the individual mangaka and the individual studios. And then we'll move forward to a really great process in the near future. Please.
Yeah. I'm also going to I'm going to predict that we're going to see an increase in the number of non-Japanese anime productions.
Right.
If Korea, Vietnam, the Philippines are now integrated into this whole process, it's going to be a lot easier for them to make their own works and just produce them themselves.
And think about that. Yeah, there's whole other industries, and Vietnam is really starting to jump in on it. And maybe the Korean part of the industry will also start making their own kind of stuff. And what I mean. And moving forward, so maybe maybe by virtue of competition, they'll all bounce off of each other. Good stuff.
Well, we see Netflix and Crunchyroll. They're investing. Crunchyroll's series this past season here was God of High School, and that's a Korean production house. And Netflix goes wherever it can find somebody to make the content they want.
Right.
So. I think that'll bust it wide open.
Yeah, I believe God of High School was Japanese studio, Korean creator.
Oh.
Wasn't it? I think.
Wow.
I thought there were Korean name credits in the tail end, but I didn't notice whether it was. I'm absolutely sure there were. No question. But I believe they got. Yes, it's MAPPA that is Masao Maruyama, founder of Madhouse. They're working with Korean studios, I'm sure. That's certainly a part of it. But I think they're kind of taking the overall direction on it. But you're right. I mean, and to that point, how Korean. Seong Park was the director of it.
Okay, there we go.
He is a Korean director.
Okay, then there we are. And to that point, I mean, that is a Korean setting. Right, it wears its Koreanness on its sleeve, so I think it's making it a lot easier. Totally. It'd be very interesting to see if there's more There's more international stuff coming out of this. But yeah, I'm pretty hopeful. I think it's going to be fine. Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right, Manav. Japan has been outsourcing anime production for decades.
Yeah.
So they certainly have the skills, if not the industry infrastructure, so to speak, right? Obviously, they have the technological infrastructure, which is all the different pieces to transfer stuff around. One of the problems actually with this is the anime industry tends to have bespoke systems. So like everyone uses this one, Japanese piece of software to do all their editing in. So if you want to do editing, you got to use like this one piece of software that all 30 anime studios have licensed. So I think now that everyone's kind of used to all this, it's everyone's kind of hooked into all these systems. It's a little easier for folks to be part of it and to produce. We'll see. Who knows?
Now, Brent, the Korean Fox anime Yobi
the Five-Tailed Fox. Oh, yes.
Yobi the Five-Tailed Fox. I wonder if you took that production and you made it at the dollar of Netflix, whether it would have been more successful.
Yep.
Because the technical capacity is completely there.
Yep.
The story is completely there. But if you had Netflix that had paid for that and then had it distributed through Netflix, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Would that have changed the fate of that film?
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right.
Yep.
And it's also just to the general internationalness of Netflix. And just the name. This thing came from Netflix. Ooh, let's all pay attention to it.
Right.
Yep, totally. It's a real thing. Unfortunately, Korea has expanded their industry enough to where I feel like they have enough to have a domestic industry. Sometimes that creates Satellite Girl and Milk Cow. But sometimes it creates, Yobi, and it creates Wonderful Days, and all these amazing works. So, that's the nature of things.
Right.
But yeah. So what have y'all been watching this past week?
Everything.
No good. I expect nothing less from you, John.
Yeah, more Strike, which is more Majo Tabi Tabi. The one was the Traveling Witch.
Yeah.
More of the Kimi to Boku no Saigo, which is the Romeo and Juliet one, Magic Kingdom and the Mechanical Kingdom. And then, of course, Koma Bear.
Of course.
Because that's just so cute. I hate
Her puppets are good.
Yeah, I just when the Nendoroid of that comes out, I'm channeling Steve. Just shut up and take my money. Just take my money.
Just take it.
Yep.
So
exactly.
That's
Oh God,
been the
so
usual
much crap out there.
catching up on everything that there is this season and trying to go backwards and watch parts of other things that I've been not watching or watching parts of and not remembering. So, typical week.
Fair. Steve, how are you?
So not too bad. So yeah, I just kind of catching up on stuff. And I was saying to you guys earlier, watching Giant Mnemonic last night, and saw the anime in the background, which was Demon City Shinjuku.
Oh, cool.
I was just like, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I knew there was anime in the background, but I hadn't really noticed. And it just blended so well with the wonderful gunfight scene and people getting shot and blown apart. All that wonderful fun stuff. But I was able actually to fit in a couple of episodes of Last Exile, so I'm almost there, almost done with that.
Ooh,
and
cool.
I've been enjoying it. It's actually kind of going back to the whole anime fatigue thing. It's not so much the anime fatigue as it was the series fatigue. There was a stretch of episodes where I was just kind of like, this is kind of feeling like a slog, and I just need to kind of take a step back and then watch other things and come back to it and just fall in love with the graphics. And I still love the the song, the intro song
Just
of
keep
Last
on
Exile.
flying.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's really really cool. But what I have been doing is actually not so much watching. Is I've been going through my Japanese history texts
Ooh.
and just kind of just revamping on that just because of writing stuff. I need to get some information and things, but Tokugawa Japan, Yusui's story, which is semi on semi. It's an English biography. Hey, whiskey. Autobiography.
Seems whiskey would just make it worse.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes. It's an autobiography of a low-level samurai, and the thing of it is it's one of those things where people who have found the manuscript have said, "Well, this guy's kind of a little bit of a liar." But the big thing behind it is that it gives you when he does tell the truth, and he's not talking about himself. You get an excellent view of what it is to be a low-level samurai in Edo around 1840s, I think, 1845 thereabouts. And I'm reading also The Last Samurai because just about Saigo Takamori is considered to be the actual last samurai in Japan, and which is the Tom Cruise movie, which historically speaking is like totally not
right. Yeah.
But reading about this and just kind of reading about how the samurai just basically how they went from during the Tokugawa period to being an integral part of society to just being petty bureaucrats, and how this one guy was the last one that embodied Bushido, what it meant, intelligence, education, things like that, and how he was for and against at the same time the Meiji Empire, Meiji Restoration. So that was my long-winded way of saying, going, I'm getting my history fixed on.
Well, this is a great week in which you do that because November 9th, 1867 is the anniversary of the shogun relinquishing his power.
Meiji power.
Yeah.
Wahoo.
Exactly.
Yeah. He totally biffed it.
Yeah.
To say the least. Totally biffed it.
He lived in interesting times, unfortunately for him.
Yeah.
Definitely unfortunately.
Yeah, I've not been watching much anime. As I mentioned before, Urusei Yatsura Beautiful Dreamers 2-3, which I discovered is called Megazone 2-3 because it says in the title, Megazone 2-3. So, okay. I've actually been reading some manga this week. So, checked out some of... let me remember. Gosh. I say that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to remember all these names, but then I completely don't. Because there's just so much. Okay, so Blissful Land, which is about a 13-year-old boy living in Tibet some years ago, 1800s perhaps, and he's the son of the local herbalist, so he's kind of taking that on, learning herbalism and so forth. And then one day, a family comes in with a bride who's about his age, and they're taking her to her new husband, because that's how that worked. And so he just kind of says hi and, interacts with them a little bit. And then the next day they're like, yeah, so this is your bride. Bye. And it turns out, like, his family has arranged he's going to get married, and this is his new bride, and it's this girl. And what's nice is it's a very charming story because he's this kind of bumbling, nice young boy. She's this very sweet girl. They're not married yet. They've been betrothed. Marriage is going to come, in a little bit. And it's the classic thing of, okay, you're going to get married. You're going to live for the next, 4 years together. Then you'll finally get married or whatever. And so what's nice is they start out just like he just treats her as a guest. initially because he has no idea what's going on. She does. And she's just kind of charmed by how broadly nice he is, you know? And then as a result, they have a very natural relationship with each other. Also, because it's Tibet, you know, they're both dressed like from neck to, to ankle the entire time. So, you know, there's no physical stuff going on. There's no fan service. Like, it's just impossible. So it's just this very charming sort of romance series. And not even romance, but just sort of slice of life comedy kind of a thing. About these two characters getting to know each other. And lovely art. So enjoying that. On the other end of the spectrum is Sweat and Soap. Which is, yes. Which is about a woman. I think she's in her late 20s or mid 20s, something like that. She's always sweated a lot. She just perspires a lot, and so she was kind of teased as a kid and a teenager. So she's gotten really good at like putting on, you know, perfume and going through these various rituals to kind of avoid that as much as possible. She now works at like a cosmetics company that makes soaps and such. And then one day, one of the employees is kind of going through the foyer and kind of goes, kind of makes a beeline for her and says, "I love the way you smell." And it turns out he is one of their big like product designers, product developers, and he has this amazing nose. And he has caught on to her like natural scent, and it just fascinates him. Because like he's literally got a nose for things, and so just like exactly how all that works. And so yeah, and he really likes how she smells, and really likes her. And I mean, obviously he's a connoisseur of this stuff. And so they end up getting into a relationship. And what's nice is, like, he's a little inappropriate initially, but he also, like, apologizes for that and, like, goes after and says, you know, I'm sorry, I should have done that, I should have said that, whatever. It's not creepy, he's just kind of, not forceful. He says what's on his mind, basically. And he's not trying to be creepy. He's just, you know, I love the way you smell. And what's nice is that the two of them get into a relationship, a physical relationship, and they're both in their mid-20s. Like, there's nothing creepy about it. Like, they're both consenting adults. They're both interested in each other. They're both, like, it's fine. So it is definitely a sexy kind of a manga. But it has this sort of weird element to it that adds a spice, if you will, an odd scent to it. I found myself kind of charmed by it. Like I appreciated their relationship. I appreciated their personalities. It was fun. And then the other one was, oh my gosh, Spy Family. Okay. So you've got your protagonist, who is super spy, James Bond level super spy in Cold War Germany, but it's, you know, German lawn, you know, North and South right. German lawn, whatever. So they can actually like sell it in Germany and not get in trouble. And the problem is he gets this assignment to take out this guy who is very reclusive and only shows up to events having to do with his daughter's exclusive school. So the secret agent has to find a young girl that he can infiltrate into the academy so he can show up at these events. Okay. So he goes to an orphanage, asks for, you know, the brightest kid in the orphanage, and they point to this like 6-year-old girl who's a little freaked out, and she acts a little bit odd, and kind of her answers to things are odd. And he goes, yeah, like she can just answer things immediately, and she does that, and he's like, okay, I'm fine, take her home. And she's very excited because she really enjoys the fact that her new daddy is a spy because she is secretly a telepath.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right.
But she knows how
layering on these things, certainly.
But she knows how creepy people are about telepaths, so she can't tell anyone, right? And he can't tell her he's a spy because that'll get her in trouble. So they've got to keep this secret from each other. Then the other thing is that he finds out that the school is a very traditional school. They don't allow in children who have like widowed parents. That's just not proper. You know, it has to be man and wife with child. He's like, oh, great. So I'm gonna have to find some woman who will go with me. And so he starts doing all that. The daughter then ends up maneuvering him into getting together with this one woman because she's really excited about the fact that her new daddy is a secret spy and her new mommy is secretly an assassin. Who cannot let anyone know about this.
Wow.
So, he's posing as a psychiatrist. Thugs with guns burst through the doors and try to kill him. And he's like, yeah, I had a client who was just like really, really upset with me. So I just had to deal with that,
God.
I really want this to turn to an anime one day. Like, it's great anime fodder. It's a lot of fun. And one thing I really appreciate is that pretty quickly they establish the fact that these characters all like find things they appreciate about each other. So, like, by the end of the volume, I don't think it's a spoiler to say, like, there's a scene where they're all, like, ordering out for dinner, and you see from each of the perspectives going, like, I like this. Like, I like spending time with these people, and I would kind of like for this to continue. So, besides all the comedy and action and all that kind of stuff going on, there's kind of a sweet family, center to it all, where they are, like, literally establishing a relationship with each other and getting to know each other and, enjoying each other's company. So I like that kind of, the sweetness and lightning, the kind of thing where it's like, these people care about each other. So I'm really looking forward. These are all volume ones. That's all I've read of these so far. But I definitely, I've enjoyed the rest. But Spy Family, I'm like, yep, more, yes, please. Getting all of these now, like, just more of that, please. I think it's going to be a real fun one.
Just take my money.
Exactly, yes. So that's been fun. Let's see here. I need to dig into the number of isekai series out there. That's a good question, data-wise. I want to see how many isekai series there have been of late.
Many.
Many, yeah. But that's the thing. So I started pulling in. I started pulling down analysts database, analyst.co, and the numbers have been surprising. There were more mecha series, more mecha anime works released in the last decade than there were during the 1980s.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
The 80s was all about mecha.
Right.
And the reasons are a couple of fold. One is that anime series are shorter now, right? So you're producing more. A lot of them have shifted to like ONAs and movies, and OVAs and such. Well, not really OVAs, but ONAs and such. And what we're seeing are more comedies. We're seeing parodies. We're seeing Space Battleship Tiramisu. Things like Frame Arm Girls and Azure Lane, which are mecha, but not mecha.
Right.
And then we're still seeing works. There's Gundam being made. There's the Eureka 7 movies being made. The Code Geass movies being made. But they're all like a couple of movies coming out. So it's kind of shifted in a very different direction than what we're used to in the 80s, which were hard-bitten war mecha series on TV.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's been an interesting shift. So yeah, it's fascinating to look at the actual data, but there's no question, a lot of isekai. Definitely a lot of isekai. Y'all hear that?
Hear something.
And welcome back to the latest anime news for the week ending November 14th, 2020. This week, Sunrise announced a new anime is in the works for its SD Gundam World franchise, a spin-off of the main Gundam franchise that anthropomorphizes the mecha themselves. The new SD Gundam World Heroes television anime is set to debut worldwide in April of 2021. In Japan, it'll air on both Tokyo MX and BS11, as well as, of course, the Gundam channel on YouTube. Overseas fans will have to keep their eyes open for updates on worldwide streaming as it gets closer. The new show will continue the SD Gundam World Sengoku Soketsuden anime from last July, but will add new characters to the story, like Goku Impulse Gundam and Sergeant Verd Buster Gundam. The director, main writer, and CGI director are all returning from the previous anime as well. The SD Gundam franchise has been around for a long time. It began as 4-panel comics back in 1980. That's a year after the original Gundam first came out. After Bandai's chief editor was taken with a drawing submitted by a junior high student that featured a super deformed Gundam drawing with unusual proportions, the franchise has since successfully spawned its own very successful materials of all kinds, anime, manga, model kits, and other toys and merchandise. It's funny because I think SD Gundam is one of those aspects of the Gundam franchise that a lot of folks have heard of or seen of, and it just aren't, don't get into unless they get into SD Gundam. So it's this weird little thing, but it's popular, clearly.
I've seen some of the little SD Gundam things, and they had done back in the day with Macross or Robotech. They had started, by the time it started to peter out for the Robotech franchise, you started to see the SD Valkyries show up. And it became one of those things at the tail end where you couldn't find the full-size Valkyries anymore. You could only find the little SD ones. So it became kind of frustrating. So they're cute, but it's hard to look at the real Gundam and then look at that thing and be like,
right,
it's not as exciting.
Yeah.
I want something big war machine. I don't want something that's like a cute little cutesy thingy.
And that's the weird thing, is that I think SD Gundam got its own fan base in Japan because it was something that you could, park your 7-year-old in front of, or buy merchandise for, or whatever. And so, and the 7-year-old would still get the Gundam connection, and it would still be cool. So,
well, they're also, they're tiny.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you want to talk about a full-size Gundam, like huge, the SD Gundam, if you've got a very small space, they're like little tiny wee things. So, okay, I could see maybe that as well. That it's easier to merchandise those to people who have limited space.
Yep.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
Yep. Yeah.
Never seen it or anything. I'm one of those. I was just like, I've heard of it, but I was just like, all right, little things want my big Gundam.
Yeah.
So
it's also hard.
Never got an interest.
It's also hard because the original SD Gundam was a series of basically OVAs that are parodies of Gundam. So it's all these SD Gundams going around basically retelling the story of original Gundam, but as a comedy. And SD characters from Gundam show up as well. So you have SD, Amuro and SD all the other characters and SD Char and such.
But did we have the famous scene in SD Gundam of slap that was heard around?
I don't believe we do. Instead, we get the fashion show from the ghosts of all of the dead characters in Gundam that show up and do this whole fashion thing because there's all these dead girls throughout time in Gundam, and it's like
the dead girl Gundam fashion show. That just sounds horrific.
It's hilarious.
Wow. Yeah.
No.
Dead Girl Gundam show. Great.
But then it's
Zombie Land for Gundam SD.
yeah, and then they did SD Gundam Force, which is this, which was very much aimed at like 7-year-olds. It's kid gets this I think like a key and it lets him summon an SD Gundam and so forth, and it has its appeal to that younger audience, but it's definitely not like traditional Gundam. And then you also get Doobie Bots, which is a whole other thing, which we may have to tell about. This was the attempt to bring SD Gundam to America as an American animated TV series, where 5 ordinary American teenagers transform into SD Gundams.
Wow. Okay. That's
All right.
Yeah.
A lot.
You can find the trailer on YouTube. They did like a little promo video for it to sell to networks, who for some reason never bought it.
yeah. I can not imagine why.
They made decisions.
They needed a musical. They needed
Yeah, clearly. Are you guys aware of the Sailor Moon American live-action animated hybrid plan?
Hybrid.
good guy.
Okay. After the show, I'm going to have to show this to you. An American company in like the mid-90s
Oh, my side.
they bought the rights to Sailor Moon and put together a promo video of an American series where live action girls would be filmed as the characters. Then when they transformed, it would transform into a Saturday morning American animated cartoon thing of them as Sailor Scouts flying out on space windjammers across space. Yeah, it is remarkable. There's a song. They did a song.
Of course they did.
Sailor Moon. It's incredibly horrendous.
Cringeworthy.
It is all cringe. One of the Sailor Scouts is in a wheelchair. When she transforms, she's in a space wheelchair.
Oh, God.
Great, thank you. That's.
But this, mind you, was during the days that you used to see those little logos that said EI or something that was like educational entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there were the requirements to have inclusive educational elements, so that for its time period that would make sense.
There were also musical numbers.
Oh, of course there were. Oh. This is like Gem and the Holograms gone to hell.
Well, and that was the thing. It was clearly like, this thing was popular.
Singing in the Mall was popular with Tiffany. This thing's gonna be gangbusters.
Yeah.
Debbie Gibson, anyone?
And granted, this was like mid to late 90s, so Sailor Moon was relatively new. Like, it had not been around much. It had been on syndication a bit in America, but it could have found an audience, horrifically. All right, moving on in the news for the week. When thinking of watching anime online, YouTube isn't usually one of the best options unless you want to watch your favorite show pitched up an octave and in a small frame shot by Naruto fan art to avoid copyright strikes. Anime Log is looking to change that, however. This week they launched their global YouTube channel, and the anime on there is actually legal. So the channel describes itself as Japan's first official anime channel on YouTube that is available for global users, officially licensed by the cross-right holders of TV anime content. Bit of a mouthful, but their goal is to provide legal anime content to overseas fans while still allowing Japanese companies and content copyright holders to have control over the channel. As you might imagine, not a massive library of content. 6 titles launched with the channel this week. Ahare Ahare Meisaku-kun, Hello Anne Before Green Gables, Hungry Heart, Fantastic Children, The World of Golden Eggs, and last but not least, Jungle Emperor, aka Kim of the White Lion. Most of the titles are available worldwide, but some are limited in certain countries because of licenses that already exist in those countries. So fans have to check what's available for themselves. The channel plans to distribute 100 titles within the next year. Anime Log launched in Japan on August 7th with launch content like Blackjack and Future Boy Conan. So please, their ultimate goal is to provide 3,000 titles by 30 different companies by the year 2022. So fans should have quite a lot to look forward to. Oh,
Yeah.
oh yes.
Now I'm going to assume this is going to be the usual YouTube thing where it's going to be the maximum number of commercial interruptions.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So like some of the ones you see where the stream part is like 3 minutes commercial, 3 minutes commercial, 3 minutes commercial. That's how this is going to fund this.
Probably. Yep.
More than likely, but I'm still liking the idea of this coming to YouTube, and especially if they're going to do that many titles. I'm just mad that I miss Blackjack because that's not one I get to see very often.
Yeah.
And
And
that's pretty cool.
And I'm hoping that they're basically launching this with that limited group, so that it can kind of launch, it'll be fine, nothing explodes, and then they can kind of bring in the rest of that material. So we will get Blackjack and Future Boy Conan, my gosh, eventually.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, it would just be really nice to not be able to have to see like what I normally get on anime on YouTube, which is we're gonna have a 5-minute segment of a Gundam battle, and we're getting to the apex of the battle, and it's over, and you can't find 1, 2, 8, and 5, and and just go forward and just be able to watch the episode. But if you can put up with the free streaming services, with their periodic ads, because YouTube now lets you like either load the ads at the very beginning, in the very middle, or at the very end. Now, so I think they would probably put it like somewhere in the middle. I guess I don't know, but bless you.
Good night.
But
twice.
4 times. I would say that the ads probably aren't going to be. They'll probably tailor it to make the ads hopefully not as cumbersome. But still, it wouldn't be nice. Wouldn't be nice to be able to go onto a site, watch a series, and then not have to. I think John, you mentioned this before over in Discord. Have to scrub your laptop of any possible.
Yeah.
No kidding.
That cover.
Yep.
Well, and there's also YouTube Premium, right? Like you can pay $5 a month to get rid of all the ads if you want to.
Yeah.
So that is an option as well.
I find it very interesting that they're doing this, and I hope that the catalog they're going to be putting in there is going to be stuff that is genuinely difficult to get in any other place. So stuff that's not easily available in Funimation or Crunchyroll or Sentai or whatever the other current streamings. Hopefully it's stuff where it's like those sites where you can find it, you better not allow your computer to be defenseless from the virus. Because YouTube, we can at least have a reasonable sense that it's going to be safe enough for us to watch with our equipment.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I mean there's so much of that backlog of stuff that probably has been fan subbed, it's out there around, but it's not, no one's like clamoring for that license.
Yeah, trying to find Space Runaway Idiom in its complete format and not on an infected site, it was a good trick.
Yep. It's it's complicated. Oh man, I just realized, Idion would be a fantastically expensive license, and no one's heard about it in America. So who's ever going to do that?
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of licensing, light novels are a great form of media on their own, not to mention that many of them inspire anime. So it's always good to hear about more light novels being published and distributed. This week, both a brand new publishing label and a new imprint were announced. Square Enix or Enix, I think it's Enix, announced this week they are launching a new light novel label titled Squex Novel, Squex, starting January 7th. I don't care how it's supposed to be pronounced. I'm going to pronounce it that way. Along with the announcements, they revealed the first 9 novels will be part of the label. 3 of them were previously published by a different company, including Didn't I Say to Make My Abilities Average in the Next Life, and will pick up with Squex starting in their next volume. The 6 new novels joining Squex at launch are all serialized online, and all have the extremely long titles that are common to light novels these days. So if you'd like to find out more about them, you have to check the article about it, or we'll be here reading titles all day. In the world of overseas novel distribution, 7 Seas Entertainment announced on Friday it's launching a new imprint for the publishing of both light novels and prose novels. Novels will be published under the Airship logo, starting in January, with backlist titles being included over time. The company also plans to announce new licenses for the imprint on November 30th, so light novel fans can keep an eye on 7 Seas social media for those reveals. 7 Seas began by publishing original manga, but since expanded to licensing manga and light novels as well. Publisher Jason D'Angelis commented that while 7 Seas has been publishing Japanese light novels since 2006, quote, in the last several years we've dramatically expanded, so that light novels now comprise about 25% of our yearly titled list.
Damn.
So light novels definitely, they're gaining, they're building, they're going up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've watched stuff based off of light novels, but
Yeah.
I've never actually ever found a translation that I've read. So
I was just gonna say, I feel like I just feel like with over the past few weeks we've been reading more and more, or hearing more and more about more light novels coming out, and I know that's been a thing for this entire time, but it's not something that I've been into. Now I'm just kind of going, should I be adding this to my plethora of a mountain of things? How am I going to fit this into between my manga, my anime, and my theatrical version on ice
exactly
stuff?
Exactly.
How am I going to listen to it?
Well, first you've got to master written and spoken Japanese, and then you go through the entirety of the light novel series and all of the manga, and so somewhere in the next.
Are you a real fan, Steve? Are you a real fan?
Oh God! Oh no! Oh, did I tread on that mine? Real fans don't dub. Real fans
exactly,
sub.
Yes.
Oh,
No.
sorry.
No. Real fans learn Japanese.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't have to have sub or dub.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No.
Back away, not today,
Exactly.
disco lady.
That's the thing is that there's because the thing is like they've not particularly necessarily these companies, but you've got like Haruhi Suzumiya light novels, which there's a lot of story in that never made it into the anime series. Boogie Pop is my classic one because there's just all sorts of stuff in the Boogie Pop franchise that never made it in. Although I think most of it is in the new series. But yeah, there's a lot. Spice and Wolf, you get many volumes of Spice and Wolf compared to the anime. So yeah, that's good to see. 7 Seas had this is a story for afterwards, but they've had controversies in the past with licensing stuff because it's complicated. You license something and you'll find out that things happen later in the series that you didn't realize happened, and you're like, so yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, we'll talk about that some a little later.
Archaeology after.
Exactly. Attack on Titan has been a phenomenon since it began, but with the last anime season and the end of the manga approaching, it seems the end of an era is upon us, being eaten by giant titans. Manga creator Hajime Isayama spoke this week at the unveiling of statues in his hometown based on the manga's characters, and confirmed that the manga is only 1% to 2% away from completion. He said he's been carefully arranging the piece for the finale like the end of a game of shogi, or Japanese chess. The 4th and final season of the anime is also coming up very soon, debuting on December 7th. Now, the manga might be ending, but it certainly doesn't mean its publication is over. Kodansha's Besatsu Shonen magazine announced this week that Attack on Titan is getting a full-color serialization in the magazine. The announcement did not say when the new serialization will begin, Perhaps they're waiting for the original to end, so they're not publishing different chapters of it at the same time for confusion's sake. Isayama launched it in Bisatsu Shonen magazine back in 2009 with the 32nd compiled volume published last month by Kodansha. The original anime premiered in April of 2013, and obviously there are plenty of spin-offs and other manga, anime games, etc. And of course the live-action movies, and it has more than 100 million copies in print worldwide. What exposure do you all have to Attack on Titan? Have you guys seen any of Attack on Titan?
I watched the first probably 5 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. In the chat, Jay goes, "Yay! It's finally almost over."
I guess I would probably feel that way because I just never really got into it. I thought the cosplay was interesting.
Yeah.
How people did the cosplay. I thought that was really interesting. Especially the people who wanted to dress up as the Titans. I'm like, okay. But
large naked people. Okay, that's easy cosplay, isn't it?
That's when you just round the corner and go, "Oh, my eye."
Yeah.
Oh, please. But it just never grabbed me for some reason. And this is one of those cases where I realize that it's kind of like me not getting it, and like other people, like, because there are people out there who are just obviously look at how well it's done.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Diehard fans of this, and I'm the lone guy who's just like, oh, good, I understand. They're just like, go shunt him off outside of the walls. Just let the Titans have him.
Feed him to the Titans.
Yeah.
Well, I was to say, I got my Attack on Titan cosplay in the closet. I got all these tattoos that I had done. I'm a super fan. No,
okay,
I'm just kidding. I'm basically the same boat as Steve. I watched about 5 episodes. I saw it when it was on Adult Swim, I think. So I've again another one of these where it's like so many episodes went by and somewhere my life intersected and I saw an episode. I'm like, what? So many more months go by, and again it intersects my life, and there's something totally different going on. I'm like, is this the same show?
Yeah.
And I made those 5 episodes. I literally made the conscious effort because I think Phil watched the entirety of it. So he's like, "Oh, it's actually really, really good. You should really get into this. This it's really got us a lot of action. It's got a lot of interesting story to it." I made it 5 episodes, and I'm just like, it's shonen-y. I'm having a hard time engaging this in a way that I really get my teeth into.
Yeah.
Titans eating people.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tip your service. So I haven't gotten back to it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's season 1.
Yeah.
It's not pretty likely that I'll necessarily get there until I, get that point where we were talking about this sort of dry time with anime, with the new stuff. If it gets me a little, I don't want to deal with that, I can get back to the backlog, and then it could happen again. That's how I saw the Cabinet of the Iron Fortress.
Oh, yeah.
I got kind of sick of the new stuff several seasons ago, and then I went back and then just loved the heck out of it, watched the whole thing. So I never discount the chance that could happen.
Because if you want to break from all the depressing news of COVID and you just want to go back and just take your mind off things and relax, Attack on Titan is just kind of the perfect, relaxing thing.
It's a great family. It's just like Little House on the Prairie.
Exactly. Yeah, it's basically chaos.
Yeah. It's a healing, relaxing show.
Yeah, I had the exact same reaction. To me, it was just so grimdark. It was just so absurdly grimdark that it just kind of went over the event horizon for me in terms of I just couldn't take it seriously. It just became kind of ridiculously grimdark. And I know it's trying to be, but it just, I was like, okay, I just, not my thing. Emo at its finest, exactly, Jay.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah, I got to deal with the emo in real life. I don't need to deal with
Right.
it.
But Becca brings up a good point in the chat, is that there are so many people who aren't into anime who got into anime through Attack on Titan. Like, it is very much a gateway series for some reason, which is fascinating.
Oh, and don't personal
Yeah,
predilections
same here, yeah.
don't dictate global interest. I mean,
Exactly.
people who got in with
Exactly,
Naruto,
right.
who got in with Beyblade, who
Yeah.
got in, you know what I mean? Any number of these that are gateways, kudos to the people that have enjoyed them greatly, and it has led to their great enjoyment in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud that.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to be there with you, but
Right.
I'm going to applaud it.
Absolutely. Things are popular, clearly for a reason, right? Speaking of popularity, also this week, a few news items to mention that we may not necessarily cover in great detail, but worth mentioning, and we'll go into detail if these fine gentlemen decide to. One anime film that's been taking the world by storm these last few weeks, and this week is no exception, the Demon Slayer Mugen Train film broke more records this week, surpassing Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone to become the 5th highest earning film of all time in Japan. Above it now are only Spirited Away, Titanic, Frozen, and Your Name. Although with the current trend, it may not be long before the Mugen Train passes some of those on the tracks as well. As of this week, it also became the 7th highest earning film worldwide of 2020, and the 2nd highest animated film behind Legend of Deification, which is Chinese. It was announced this week that Saizo Harawata and Miyako Siwa's Battle in 5 Seconds After Meeting manga is inspiring a TV anime. The manga story begins when a candy and game-loving high school boy suddenly finds himself embroiled in a battle by a mysterious girl. Harawata originally posted the manga online before the artist launched a remake with new art in 2015. Manga has over 2 million copies in circulation and 15 volumes in print. Osaka's Asahi Broadcasting Corporation, or ABC, announced on Wednesday that it is producing a TV anime for its cute mascot character, Absi. Absi's study diary will debut in January and follow the titular character, an unidentified mysterious animal, sort of like the Loch Ness Monster, who was drawn to ABC's headquarters by the radio waves 5 years before. She becomes a new employee at the Ebishi TV station, a wordplay on ABC, and works to improve herself with the help of her new friends and colleagues. Sounds cute. Sanex's adorable round Sumiko Gurashi characters are inspiring a second anime film sometime next year. The announcement was made this week for the 1-year anniversary of the first film's opening. This franchise began in 2012, features a cast of odd and slightly negative characters who like to stay in one corner of a room. Notable members include Penguin. There's a question mark in its name. A penguin who is unsure if it's really a penguin. Tonkatsu, an uneaten piece of pork cutlet. And several other animals with similar strange characteristics. The first film tells the story of the characters discovering a mysterious picture book in the basement of a cafe that they frequent. In addition to the films, the franchise has inspired games, toys, books, and various other merchandise. Not to be dismissive, but Japan. To celebrate its upcoming second season, Laid Back Camp partnered with Hello Kitty to produce the 3-episode miniseries Hello Kitty Camp, where Kitty, dressed up like Nadeshiko, guides viewers through scenic points of the Yamanashi Prefecture. The episodes are only available for short times. The first episode streamed on YouTube until November 8th and featured Hello Kitty visiting, Fukigawa Fruit Park, I think I got that right, and sampling its special parfait, with the voice actress of Ogaki Chiaki providing narration. The second episode will be November 16th to 23rd, and the third from November 30th to December 7th. Aww.
I gotta watch that soon.
Yeah. Finally, it was announced this week that the previously announced anime adaptation of the Sword Art progressive light novel series will be a film, not a series. The film will be titled Sword Art Online the Movie, The Aria of the Night Without Stars, because we cannot have short titles in anime, and will open sometime next year. This series retells and expands the stories of the original light novels and began in 2012. So that is that. Yes, Laid Back Camp getting some representation, getting some love. Always good to see.
I've got to go watch that before it goes away.
Yeah, totally. I'm all for that.
I'm not a super Hello Kitty fan, but just I appreciate the visual kawaii cuteness of Hello Kitty and how it's very not threatening, and the really relaxing aspects of Eurocamp. It'll be like the most cute, relaxing, fall asleep, might go into a coma from the overload of sugary sweetness. I think I could be all over that. I have a good nap coming up from watching that. I bet.
There we go.
Maybe. I'm kind of curious about the unknown, the Sumiko Garashi. That there's a penguin, and then one of the mystery animals is tonkatsu.
Yep.
That's not an animal. That's a piece of pork.
It's technically an animal. It's just a cooked animal.
It's a piece of a cooked animal.
Yeah, that's
Who wants the merch on that one?
Yeah.
I don't want somebody going and ruining my tonkatsu by putting a face on it and making it talk. I'd be conflicted now. Googly eyes. The perfect prank. We go get ramen and you put googly eyes on my tonkatsu and I just have a psychological breakdown. I can't eat it now.
Googly eyes, windows to the soul.
Yeah. Oh my.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there's a Hello Kitty musical. There have got to be many Hello Kitty musicals. I mean, heck, there got to be plenty of like Hello Kitty. What are those just roadside stage shows where in a park they'll just have the characters come out and do a little song and dance for 5 minutes. Yeah. That's got to be.
Well, they always make fun of in animes when they go to an amusement park. Mm-hmm. There's that the stage off to the side, and it's it's the Hero Rangers. And I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sure they do that, but Hello Kitty is across. So I have Hello Kitty toilet paper. I mean, it's across so many things: mouthwash, sodas, food.
I still have. Yeah, definitely sweet food candy. I still have this tin container. I think it was Anymore. I got it in the dealer room, one of those $20 bags. Here, open it up. It's either crap or something good.
Hey.
A bunch of these. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hello Kitty is nuts.
Yeah.
See here. As of 2019. Hello Kitty has generated $80 billion in lifetime retail sales. Yep. It is the second highest grossing media franchise of all time.
Would the first be Disney?
Nope.
What is it?
You want to guess? It is primarily a video game franchise.
Naruto.
Nope. Oh no. It is primarily a video game franchise, but it's a lot of other things. It's well known in popular culture. The anime is very popular.
Don't say Attack on Titan.
No. It's been around for decades. It's aimed at kids.
One Piece.
Really? No.
Damn.
No.
Pokemon?
Think big. Yes, you got it.
Thank you.
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
No, One Piece. No.
I like that. Think big, and it wasn't One Piece.
There we go. Absolutely. See if I can get a thing. I'm scrolling through the Pokemon article, which is long on Wikipedia, including the criticism and controversy section. Cultural influence, fan community. Where is the... let's see here. They have sold... $90 billion in total franchise revenue across the decades, which is, decent.
It's kind of expecting it to be like 190 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be like disgustingly gross amount.
Yeah. They have sold over 30 billion Pokemon cards.
Holy.
30 billion with a B.
Wow.
It's kind of nuts.
That represents 2/3 of the entire old growth forests of Canada. Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I can just see it now. Cut them trees down. We got some Pokemon cards to get through.
Well,
the logging company. We have to get 127,000 board foot a tree a day out of here just for general consumption. What? There's a new Poke card coming out. We need 200,000 board feet today. Oh, you're kidding me. Exactly. And there's another manga? Oh, up it to 500,000. My captain, she won't take anymore. Just do it.
She has to. Yeah.
I'm a logger, not
Just
a
cut them
printer.
trees down.
Yeah.
What was I watching? It was a Saturday Night Live sketch. It was when they had Shatner on, and they're doing a Star Trek parody sketch, and there's a crew member who like chokes on something and bends over, and Kirk goes, Bones, get over here. And Bones goes, damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a... Oh.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, so that's all the news fit to print this week. Thank you all for watching. Yeah, it's a week. Stuff's popping.
I definitely want to see that Osaka broadcasting one with the Loch Ness
ABC.
monster. I really want to see that one because I'm always curious to see like Rail Romanesque. I'm always interested to see, even though I can't engage it because it's an on the ground kind of thing. You get it if you're there; it makes more sense. But I always love watching these sort of ways that they're trying to commercialize their mascot or their rail service or their hot spring service or onsen or the ryokan service, whatever. But I always like to see the way that they sort of finagle this in there to be like, oh no, it's entertaining, but it's actually about you coming here and spending money. But it's entertaining. Like,
Totally.
Like those McDonald's commercials. I could watch them forever. I get an emotional response from that. It's like, it makes me want to go to apply to McDonald's. And they're like, exactly. Like, crafty people.
Yeah, and there's no anime news this week. The only news item of the week is it's really just Japanese history. It's the shogun stepping down on November 9th of 1867, I think it was. Let me just double check on that. So yeah, 1867.
That's what you said earlier.
Yep, beginning the Meiji Restoration. So Japan officially changed governments, or began the process thereof, if you will. It's never that immediate. And Japan started opening up to the West and becoming a global citizen, which led to anime ultimately. But nothing specific.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been interesting if the Perry hadn't shown up?
Yeah, or the Boshin War had failed. If they had just decided to stay isolated.
Yeah, that's like what. I wonder what that would have done for animation. Jeez.
Yeah,
it would have been obviously dominated like severely by Disney, like it was Warner Brothers. But geez, who would have risen in its place?
Well, and you also wonder if they hadn't gone. Steve, I'm glad you're on here. If they hadn't gone imperialistic and gone, and expanded, but they would have also, presumably have been aware of international relations and so forth. They could have built a film industry. They could have done some of this stuff. And
it would have been.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, please.
No, I was just going to say that if they had gone along the track that they had wanted to during the Tokugawa shogunate, it would have been a very limited exchange of ideas. and they I can't imagine that they wouldn't have opened up their ports a little bit more, but you would have seen a lot more examples of Dejima um, throughout the islands, and a little bit more of that. But as far as the animation, it would have been insular. It wouldn't been probably wouldn't been very very good because things about the shogunate. One of the things that a lot of people who sided with the shogunate wanted was lack of modernity. They didn't want things, As a matter of fact, Saito Takamori, the last samurai, his whole thing was, the only modern stuff we should have is stuff with which to protect Japan, meaning armies, navies, and things like that.
Right.
He actually hated trains. He didn't want railroads. He didn't want telegraph. He didn't want any of those things. So he basically wanted to have. If you joined the military, you were joining the modern world, but that was insofar as to protect Japan. So he was fine with that. But everything else inside would have been still culturally stuck back in 200-300 years prior, and that's what they wanted.
Yeah,
They wanted to have that kind of isolation and peacefulness, and that's how actually the samurai got to be to the state that they were. And after Perry, an interesting side note, after Perry showed up, kind of gave his, you're going to join the world or else when we come back in 1 year. You're going to tell us that you're joining the world, or else we're going to bomb the crap out of you with our ships. After they left, they actually had this one lord. Actually, a marathon, just to test the strength of the samurai, to see how well the samurai class was doing. And they realized that they had totally bureaucratized the samurai class to the point where they were no longer warriors; they were just bureaucrats. Yeah. So hardly anybody could complete the marathon, and the marathon was kind of like an anything goes kind of thing. So, people could run and just whatever, and knock you off the cliff wall or whatever. But they realized that part of the reason why the Meiji Restoration was successful was because the samurai class was totally annihilated. They were just bureaucrats by that point. Yeah. So I don't think the anime industry, if there would have been one, it may not have existed.
I think you could certainly look at in at least modern times the theocratic kingdom of Bhutan. It has everything pretty much dialed into the 19th century. They don't allow any import of anything. They don't export anything. It's a theocratic kingdom, and that's all it does. It doesn't want anything to do with anybody else.
Cuba.
As a result, what? What? So you know what I mean? It's you could do that. They kind of have the ability because they're kind of isolated up in the Himalayas. It's kind of hard to get there versus Japan. If you're going to have trade with China, you're either going to have to walk across it or sail really near to it, so you can't really isolate that much. But it would leave them in a horrible strategic situation. You know what I mean? That they would, you'd have to cast anime aside because you would be so busy focusing on trying to keep everybody from even stepping foot anywhere near you that would you have electricity? You know what I mean? Would you just be spending all your time standing on the shore watching? It's weird. Weird world it would have been.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of the arguments for the restoration is that, we can ignore those folks outside until they're on our doorstep. Or, we can modernize and get ready for them. It's fair point. Let's see here. I would like to talk about something I like, if I can. If it'll work.
I suppose.
We'll see if I can make it work. I'll see if I can skip by the ridiculous trailer stuff on the DVD. I can But I can't because that didn't work. All right, one moment.
We have to have some technological little hang up
Exactly.
every show, so
It has to happen. There we go. Okay, I just need to figure out how to get to the thing. There we are. Cool. Let me just figure that. Doo-doo-doo. And I'm going to talk about something I like here real quick. Doo-doom. Doo-doom. And there it is. But I need... That's not what that is. 1 second. There we are. Wrong title. Welcome to Brent's Anime Recommendation Corner. And you can tell what I'm about to talk about from down here, but I wonder if you could tell it from this image here. I'm going to talk about an anime I love, which I did not quite expect. This is Princess Tutu, which is a magical girl series from a while back. And this is an odd show. And it's hard to explain what's so interesting about it without getting into spoilers. So I'm going to try to, find the middle ground there. Princess Tutu is about a duck that is turned into a magical girl. She can, it's about a duck. And she is now a girl attending this elite dancing academy, like ballet academy. And she can also transform into Princess Tutu, this magical ballet girl. The thing about this series is that this is a series about fairy tales. This is a series essentially taking place inside a fairy tale world. Quite explicitly. And while it has all the kind of comedy you might expect from a traditional sort of magical girl series, there are a lot of interesting things that this series does. Oh yeah, and her dance instructor is a cat. Whole other thing. There are a lot of interesting things that the series does with the nature of storytelling and fairy tales, and dare I say it, destiny, that is really legitimately interesting. There's a lot going on in this series, and as the series goes on, it gets, it delves more and more into this stuff, while still being entertaining and fun all the way through. It gets a little heavier, obviously, as the plot kind of develops. But this is one of those shows where you start like, oh, this is fun and this is cute, and I'm going to enjoy it. And then it just expands and expands. And elements from these first couple of episodes, start to actually pay off in ways you didn't expect. A character that will add or will act oddly, 10 episodes later, you'll be like, oh, that's why he's like that. Because of this storytelling thing, or this fairy tale thing that is affecting him in this way. It's a treasure in the sense that there's a lot going on very deliberately in this show. And it's also interesting because it plays around a lot with magical girl tropes. So it is technically a magical girl series in that she transforms, but she transforms into a dancer, and she dances with other people to, resolve the conflict. She is literally dancing to understand their heart and understand what's going on. There's no combat. There's no, fighting people off. She is using the medium of dance to understand other people. And that plays into the show as well. It's a really remarkable show. There's a lot going on. And what I also particularly appreciate is that this is a series that goes places. Like the climax executes on things it sets up in ways that you're like, are they actually going to go there? They went there. Wow. Okay. Just I love it. Just got through. Ha ha.
Bless you.
Just managed. Wasn't sure I'd get all the way through that. That is Princess Tutu, which I love a lot.
Another one on the to watch list because I've heard you and others speak so highly of it.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where now that I've hyped it, folks will go in and go, "Oh, okay." It's probably not going to be.
And go watch it.
Hopefully.
Oh, okay, and go watch it.
Yeah, I hope.
There are a ton of AMVs that uses that anime to,
Yeah.
I think I saw the first two at Otakon.
And one of the nice things is, if you watch episode 1, that pretty well establishes kind of the overall visual style and tone of the series. Like I said, it gets a little more serious as it goes along. But like, if you like that first episode, like that's gonna give you a really good sense. So, it's also weird, like wonderfully anime weird. Again, dance instructor is a cat, just a cat. He's a cat. He's a very foul-tempered cat of just, you girls understand nothing. Terrible form. Like, okay, cat. Sorry.
It's Cat Barishnikov.
Yeah.
Easy there, buddy.
Yeah. Barishnikov had like I don't know, he seemed happy a lot of the time. But there's
That's because he was dancing. He wasn't a dance
That's
instructor.
true.
I'm sure as an instructor, he was probably just terribly mean. Who knows?
Definitely. But I have a question.
What did we learn on the show tonight, Brad?
That was perfect. Perfectly sung. We just harmonized. It all came together. It was great. What did I learn? I have no idea. What did I learn? I learned that there might actually be a market for those lesser-known anime works that might come over here through some of these services. There's hope for things like Anne After Green Gables. And I've also learned that mascot characters sell. And people like mascot characters. That's certainly true. I've also learned that even on a week that seems like a light news week, there's always interesting stuff to talk about. There's something going on.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that Gundam, even if you super deform them, still sells.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it still sells.
Oh, yeah.
And I need to really strongly put forward the light novel reading to flesh out some of the series that either I really feeling like I didn't get a really good resolution from the anime, or that I would maybe like to see, that some point in time if they adapt it, I'll be one step ahead of the process. So like, aha. And that, again, Kimetsu no Yaiba. Money. Money.
Yep.
Boy, I wonder who saw that coming and is now just rolling in it.
I don't know.
Yep.
I just can't. To have the fortune and the foresight,
Okay, it's time to go on Etsy and start selling your Kimetsu no Yaiba merchandise.
I'm sure there's a lot of merch in there Etsy right now as we speak.
Probably.
Probably people making the little Netsuko's
Yeah,
little bamboo piece to sort of hook around that looks like a mask.
Yes, there we go.
Bet you those are pretty hot right now.
I learned that AOT is wonderfully doing well without my support. And that's okay. That's okay. I learned that Beautiful Dreamer um, is wonderful little movie. It's visually very good. Watch the Japanese voice cast, please, because it's much, much better. And it validates my love for the rest of all of their series, and Yuyasha, Mason Koku, all that stuff, Ranma. I've also learned that I should probably take a look into light novels
Yeah.
a little bit, see what the big deal is, and kind of take an interest in that. Add to my things that I just have no money for, but I'm going to spend money anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then they'll
Talk
say
away.
he died broke. He died broke, but look at what he has.
There we are.
But or when the Earth decides to destroy itself, and I have this, much like Brent, like with your anime collection, I'll have a huge manga collection. And they'll go, the aliens will go, so this was Earth. No. And lastly, I learned that I am truly a sucker. If you say an anime has been made into a musical, it's like heroin. It's just like the switch just goes on, and I'm like wanting to go onto YouTube anywhere and find it and watch its all horrible in its glory. And just revel in it, and then find a way to finance JoJo Bizarre Adventure, the musical.
Yes, there we go. That is just a match made in heaven. Let's be honest.
Your insatiable desire for tap dancing titans. Oh yeah.
We are Attack on Titan.
Little human.
We are Attack on Titan.
And that is what I learned today.
Fred Astaire, 30 stories tall. Oh, wow.
What are this?
My mother just got eaten by Fred Astaire. Damn you!
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. I've also learned to that point that any anime can be made into a musical.
To hysterical results.
To hysterical results, absolutely. All right, thank you all so much. This has been a lot of fun, as always. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Until next time, thanks for watching.
Johnny Mina.